right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call when ready.
Steelman,
Here.
Keaton,
Here.
Jacobson,
Here.
Robel,
Here.
DeYoung,
Here.
Slopsma, here, Velmuth.
Here. Full house. Anybody need to set or adjust the meeting agenda? Okay. How about a declaration of conflict of interest for anything on the agenda tonight? Seeing no's, so we will jump into public comment. Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the PC. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following rules and procedures. Comments shall be directed to the PC with questions directed to the chair. Any person wishing to address the PC shall speak from their lectern or use the raise hand feature if Zoom is being utilized, which it is, and state your name and address. Persons may address the PC on matters that are relevant to township planning and zoning issues. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding the time needed to answer a member's question. Public comment shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anybody in town hall?
I just would like to thank everyone for all the effort that you have put in this past year on updating master plan. And as the ROS for the master plan ends, I was hoping that you may have a new one for a short-term rental ordinance, and maybe a committee of 7 people, 3 for, 3 against, and a non-biased PC member as the 7th one, to move forward on a short-term rental ordinance. Maybe put it on the ballot in August. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, we'll go to Zoom. Okay. We don't have a public hearing tonight, so approval of the minutes from November 1st, 2023. Any updates or changes or corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make the motion to accept the way it is.
I second it.
Thank you. I don't have any chorus. Oh, do we do? What do we have to? Oh, yeah, we gotta do roll call on that. Sorry. When ready, thank you.
Velmuth,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Robel,
Yes.
Steelman,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Slopsma, yes, Keaton.
Yes.
I don't have any correspondence, so we'll go into reports. I don't have a report from Bob, our zoning administrator, but he did say he couldn't be here tonight. I don't have anything for myself other than what we're gonna get into later. And so how about Heidi?
The board packet just came out yesterday, so I haven't had time to review the whole thing. It's easy if you want to read it. It's only 200 pages. Only, I did have an interesting experience when I was in Alabama, when I was looking at houses. Short-term rentals became a really hot topic, and within 4 days or 5 days of the discussion that they had in Alabama, in the town I was in, they put a moratorium on it. The problem is they have all kinds of little different towns within towns, and they only allow short-term rentals in certain parts of districts. So now, like, the reason they did the moratorium is because they realized that there were different lines drawn and they weren't, you know, how can I say this? They weren't, it wasn't apples and apples. So they decided to put a moratorium on it, and then they literally a month later came back and said, nope, we're done. So they didn't even come up with anything else to do. They just put a little line in the ordinance and that was it. So now all the people are upset because their grandfather did, but the people that were trying to do it can't do it now. So now it's a big mess. So all I can tell you is I've started to do as much research as I can do on it. Everybody else should do the same because it's not happening just here. It's happening everywhere. So it was interesting to see that. So then I started looking at different communities around here. A lot of them have the same problem. Some of them have ordinances, some of them don't. But I will tell you that the only person that could put it on the ballot is the people.
Has anybody here looked at the surrounding townships ordinances? Like Acme Township or East
I've-
Bay
I've
Township?
started to pull those up.
I mean, not in favor of reinventing the wheel. I want to know what the other townships have and what has been their experience if they have them. So that we don't,
Well,
run into
everybody
the
has
same
to start,
problems.
you gotta start your own homework. Everybody has to start their own homework.
I've read the newspaper and I can see some of the issues other townships have been dealing with and
That's why homework's so important.
Anything else, Heidi?
Other than, it's too bad we can't help the people put it on the ballot, but I haven't found anything that says we can. We can't do that, can we, Linda?
I don't know.
I don't think you can. I haven't found that you can do it. It has to be generated by the people. But I'll keep
can't-
looking into it.
We can't come up with a ordinance
So
for
we
that?
could come up with an ordinance. But you can't put the only people that can put something on a ballot are the people.
Right, but if you come up with an ordinance, I mean, the public hearing is kind of the same thing, right? The public hearing, they agree to it, then the ordinance is,
At that point, if you actually, my understanding is if you publish an ordinance and there's a certain number of days through the zoning enabling act that they have to
challenge.
marshal enough,
Signature.
enough signatures in order to then bring it to a referendum vote to either support it or fight it. I believe that's all part of the zoning enabling act. For any zoning amendment.
So we got our work cut out. Everybody's got more homework to do. I'll share whatever I find.
Thank you. Carl, do you have anything from the ZBA?
no, nothing. There's been no meetings.
Okay. Well, then we're gonna jump right into unfinished business. So that includes Barry's here from Leah and the ROS. You guys are welcome to step up and speak up whenever you want to. So the first part is to review and discuss the master plan open house and the workshop results. So I'll give it to Barry and Randy and whoever. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much for having me. Having me here, I think one more time for Leah's role, and this is kind of wrapping up, but I know you have a lot more work to do and you're gonna get more homework out of this, I'm sure. So we just completed the second kind of workshop that was put in place to gather public input and sort of prioritize goals and strategies for the master plan. I think everybody is already kind of familiar with what we did the first time around with the open house, so I didn't want to go through all of that again. If there's anything you want to recap from that, we can, but for the sake of time, you have a lot of other things on your agenda, so I'm just gonna push through to the second one. So the second was held on November 7th. We had about a little over 60 people in attendance. Whereas the first open house, we had somewhere between 80 to 100. And I say 80 to 100 because we had a lot of people who didn't sign in, I think it was noticed. So we're kind of estimating on that. There may have been a few that didn't sign in at the second one, but I think they were a little better about signing in that time. And you had a great diverse group of people that showed up too from all over the township. We kind of ran through at that meeting on November 7th. The goals and strategies that Randy and I had worked on prior or after the first open house, more or less to give them some goals and strategies to think about rather than completely starting from scratch. Sometimes I think I've mentioned before in this process, I would go through maybe a series of exercises or a couple open houses, but timing is a little bit of an issue with this, so we were sort of helping to push things along a little bit with that without leading the conversation, which is difficult to do, but hopefully the way that kind of went, I think it went pretty well. We had about 2 hours to work with that night and a lot to get through. The actual exercise where we had breakout groups, I think was everyone here at the open house yeah, I think so, right? Okay,
I wasn't.
you weren't at the second
No.
open house, okay.
So.
So,
But I think I caught up.
okay, all right. So we had breakout groups that were split the 4 different groups based on 4 different planning principles. You probably had maybe about a dozen or so, give or take, in each group. And the idea was to go through and look at those goals and strategies that were developed and kind of rank and prioritize those, and then also decide if they did like them, didn't like them, you want to strike some, you want to add some. We kind of gave them that opportunity for about 45 minutes to have a group discussion about that. And the results, I'll kind of walk through here a little bit, and if at any point you want me to pause, please let me know. We can ask questions as we go through this. So the first one was the planning principle to respect the rights of township residents and property owners. Now, I think everyone probably has a copy of this memo that gives you the order that everything was put in. Instead of going through all these one by one, I'll give you the top ones in a second, but just so you can kind of see how to read it. In the back here, and kind of the appendix that I put together with this memo or report or whatever you want to call it, or an attachment, sorry, attachment 2 in the back is actually all those planning principles. So when you see something listed in here in this cover memo, like this first one here that says have a clear, number 1, have a clear, well-organized and effective zoning ordinance. Well, if we were to go find that in the same planning principle about respecting the rights of township and residents, that also was number 1. So they ranked it in the same spot we put it in. Now, the order that we developed was, somewhat, it was in that order for a reason, because we kind of thought that was the order of importance, but it was a little arbitrary because we wanted them to weigh in on that and be able to change it. But basically, that's kind of how you read this as you go through here. And then each one of these, of course, in the planning principle explains in a little bit more detail what that means exactly. In the memo that is new for you tonight, that was put together for this meeting, I tried to capture, in some cases, they may have had comments. Now, at the end of the evening, each group had a group leader stand up in front of kind of a board they've been writing on, their thoughts and everything that were on there. And I went around and took pictures of those afterwards, but each group gave a presentation on why they wrote things down the way that they did, why they put them in that order, or added what they did, or took away what they did. So I tried to capture some of those comments, which you'll see kind of italicized just below each of these. That first one didn't really have many comments on it. Generally, the group liked that particular goal. As you continue through the memo under the goals and strategies session summary, the next one under here, you might see in all capitals like added goal. So that's something you're not going to find that we had suggested in the planning principles worksheets. Those aren't in there. This is something new that was developed by that group that they felt was important enough to write down and rank and include. And in this case, under this one for respecting the rights of township residents and property owners, they felt strongly enough that needing to have more R1 zoning and all zones need review was what they wrote down, ranked as number 2. And I tried to capture in the italicized text there what they kind of meant by that, because there was a little bit of an explanation with that. Basically that they wanted to see more R1 low density zoning. However, the comment here says the districts should not be located along a stream. Just particular to that, you're going to look at the zoning map later, and you see this yellow that follows the streams as the R1 zoning. They thought that was a little confusing, I think, and there was some confusion and discussion in that group around that particular item. Probably, I don't think because of the way they continued to rank these, that they were saying ignore the streams and the importance of environmental protection in those areas, but rather maybe just provide some clarity as to what is R1 zoning, why is it there? You know, typically when you see something like this, just as a side note, I'm going a little off the script here. When you see something like that, that might be like an overlay district that would be a buffer laid around. So you might not call it like R1, which is usually in most zoning ordinances, just means low density residential, single family homes, more or less. So it's just a little different the way it's called out in your ordinance. And maybe that's why there was some confusion behind it and why that got ranked so high to add some clarification, or maybe call it something else or something of that nature. The details of which you get to work out now going forward. Some of the other top ones that kind of came in, they talked about addressing blight, which I think we've talked about a little bit in here, specifically being a little more aggressive on certain or on certain infractions with enforcement, and then kind of reducing future land use conflicts. They also felt was very important to rank pretty high. You might go through some of these now. And as I'm going through this goals and strategies session summary results, the next planning principle on there is preserving rural character, which was a big topic. And there's not a ton of notes written down under there because we didn't get a lot of notes from the group, but they did rank everything in the order that you see in here. So even though that group didn't add anything or take anything away, there were quite a few notes under number 1, having the regulatory tools necessary to help maintain rural character. They elaborated on that quite a bit. But then they may have made a comment to the effect of number 2 would be like maintaining the rural qualities of M72 east of Cook Road. But there's not much of an elaboration on it other than that ranked very high for them at number 2. So like I said, I don't want to go through all these and spelling absolutely everything out because you can see it in front of you. Just some other highlights. Those are kind of the 2 areas. Let me see here. Under respecting the rights of township residents and property owners and preserving rural character. I think the other thing under rural character that was really discussed under the regulatory tools comment was you're really going to have to look at lot sizes. I think the number 1 thing I heard coming out of that group was the size of the lot is kind of what makes the area rural. So you have on one side of that conversation saying we want more single family homes with young families, kids coming in, going to the schools here, but we want a 5-acre minimum lot size. Well, that's a very high barrier for entry for somebody who's just starting off with young kids trying to come in. So then the idea was tossed around about an acre lot size. Well, is that too dense? Now you've got too many houses lined up along the road, you start to lose that rural character. So finding a balance somewhere in there that achieves both of those goals is going to be something I think they recognized as a challenge really going forward. Again, there's not an answer necessarily to that in here. It's just something that was extremely important to that group, and there's a lot of discussion around it. Is there anything on those first 2 before I keep going? Anybody wants to elaborate on or talk about? Okay.
No, there was a hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Larger lot sizes is not going to preserve rural character, but larger lot sizes may destroy the farm. Because as those larger lot sizes eat into those farms, more of that farm area is taken away. So and that's something that I was not aware of, but it made a lot of sense, at least to look into that. because I'm a 5 acre guy. But if the farmers feel that 5 acres is just gonna destroy the farms, because their farms, 20 acres cut up in 4 lots. Whereas 1 acre out of 20 acres. Yeah.
I remember that comment too. I'm glad you brought that up.
I think also with that kind of thought, the way I think about it a lot is when you're just gonna set, you're gonna set large lot sizes for that, what you're really doing is you're saying, if you don't earn this much money, you can't live in our community. Because you made the comment earlier, just a minute ago, that if you're just starting out, especially if you have children, you can't afford something big. You can't start out big. So you have to work up. So we can't, I think it's a mistake to make our whole community, or the majority of our community, a 5 acre lot size. What you're really saying, there's an agenda there. You're really saying, if you don't earn this much money, you can't live in our community.
One thing, Paul Hubble was saying, he was in our group, he was saying, you know, he's trying to save his farm. And he said that if you would allow 1 acre or an acre and a half lot to be sold, that money may be the answer to actually being able to keep the farms. And it would address the issue that the superintendent of the schools was saying, if we don't get some families in here with kids that we can make it where they can afford a lot to build a home, then we're gonna lose the schools back to the state.
And traditionally, the farmers of this community have done that. If you look up and down the road, you can see that.
You're done what, given an acre or?
Sold small pieces
Mhm,
when necessary. None of them want to sell any of it,
right,
but, you know, given the way farming is, sometimes that's the only answer to keep the thing alive.
Yeah,
And instead of selling off a big chunk, to be able to sell off enough just to make them get through to the next season is all they really need sometimes. They don't need to sell off a big chunk.
and they sell it off at the road frontage, so they don't have to put a big,
road in
private
or,
road in.
yeah.
I think you see that up and down all the time.
And that kind of fixes a couple of problems. It fixes the school problems. And it helps maintain the rural character because he was able to keep the farm.
The farmers are why the main reason that north of 72 is rural, like people like it, is because of the farmers. And if we hurt them, we're changing it faster than they would by selling pieces off, in my opinion.
And that would come back to a zoning issue that I think we'd all have to address and come up with a solution that would fix that, allow that to happen to meet those two goals, the rural character, yet an acre and a half minimum, whatever would work out. The schools would be okay with that, and the farmers would be okay with that.
So we all know I have young kids and it's important to me that our school stays open. So I'm in favor of, personally, in favor of smaller. However, hearing what you say about the money issue and you have to have so much to purchase 5 acres, I would be curious to hear from the public that are in favor of 5 acres or plus, how that we could do that. How could, if we kept it at 5, how could we possibly make that? Or what are your other reasons other than keeping the value, keeping the income levels? I don't know how else to put it, like, but that's what you're saying.
Well, I mean, that in my simple mind, that's how I feel.
Well, I don't think it's simple.
It's better words, but.
Well, I guess I want from the folks that are pro 5 acres, I want to hear their reasoning. I can be swayed different ways, but I would like to hear, because that makes sense to me and I don't think that's fair. So I guess that's my plea to the public or whoever's listening or watches, you know, let me know, talk me into that. Help me understand why 5 acres is.
Well, a good
Go ahead.
example that I have is the property right beside that borders our property. There's 20 acres, just went up for sale for $400,000. So that is, you're not going to get a single family, you're not going to get small families in here for $400,000. So you divide it by 5, you're still not gonna get them in, or excuse me, put it by 5 acres, you're still not gonna get it. So we're gonna have to come up with a way of addressing that. And I believe we can sure do that.
Denise, do you want to speak?
When they sell it, recorded, it comes in for a developer to buy and puts in 20 homes on 20 acres, that's 1 acre. And the other part of that is if you're selling, you put a small house on a 1 acre lot and it's like 253,000, people would be buying those for short-term rentals. They're not the affordable housing part of that is going to work for many people because I just a few weeks ago, someone, I think it's either home buying Tulia, they bundle together homes that are for sale or rental homes, they bundle together. And someone bought 247 houses at one time. It was an LLC, nobody knows who bought it. If anything is out there for sale, they just, if it's under a certain price range, they bundle them and they sell them. So it's a lot of things to think about. And you say 1 or 2 acres. If you're selling just 1 or 2 day apartments, sure. If you're selling 20 acres, it's going to be 20 homes, 20 acre minimum.
So it sounds like to me that these are several different zoning amendments crossing over each other that are kind of all need to be addressed, but
It's not an easy issue. And the other element to this is not just the lot size, but the land division requirements that we have. How many
Mhm.
splits you can have from an original parcel, and the fact of our condominium ordinance and how that allows, things like Bags Road to happen with 1 acre lots. Just less than 1 acre lots. And that can happen just about anywhere in the township. That's not, anywhere that's zoned agricultural, that is. Somebody can buy the 20 acres, put 20 homes in there, pretty much maybe 18, but you need the room for the road, but.
So that feeds right into item 5 on this list.
I have
About
one comment.
creating a PUD zoning district that developers are inclined to use.
Can I request that you use your mics? I can't hear Mike and we can't hear anyone in the audience. Thank you.
sorry. Thank you, Connie. We need a
The
reminder.
One thing I wanted to add to everything is, another thing that's hurting us a lot is school of choice. There was a big news article about it yesterday about school of choice, and it's unbalancing all the schools because you can literally put a kid wherever you want. So is the lack of children living here the problem? Or is it the school of choice the problem?
It's the lack of children, yeah. The only thing that's been keeping the school open is the school of choice, because 1/3 of the Elk Rapids school district is school of choice. But now they're out of formula, so they're no longer going to receive state funding for those kids because our property values went so high. So it's a tricky situation. So what I'm hearing is we do have our work cut out for us, but I'm wondering what homework do we need to do, Randy or Barry, going forward to get to this point, because we have to finish the master plan before we can address all of these zoning issues. So we could talk all night, but what can we do now?
I think what we have now that we didn't have before is our fingers on the pulse of what people want. And we've gone through this exercise between the survey, the open house, and the workshops to get a better understanding. Some of these issues I think are fairly new in terms of coming up in a formal way before the planning commission. But what the master plan needs to do is point a direction for the planning commission and the township to deal with this. And it is really a mixture of things. It's not just lot sizes, it's land division and it's PUD
and
requirements.
STR and several issues all in one, for sure.
Right. I think the points are well taken, though. I mean, I think in general, people think a 5 acre minimum lot size discourages suburban, rural development because you got to have 5 acres. But on the other hand, you gobble up 5 acres for each house versus 1 acre.
Right.
And that's exclusionary to some extent.
That is where I live, is on the lake, and they're all 1 acre, 100 foot wide lots. That's not rural. That's not low density. At 100 foot wide lots, if you wanna compromise in there somewhere, you could come up with something between 1 and 5 acres, but have a wider front yard, not 100 foot. Because that's not rural.
Another thing we'll talk about a little bit more is it's not just density, it's also design, how the homes are designed on the landscape. And Gary can speak to that as well with his background, but we're gonna show some images later today that's gonna show that clearly.
So I think for now, what our best homework is to make sure we understand what everybody wants, listen to the people, encourage them to come to our meetings and tell us what they want. And we just keep plowing forward with the master plan so that we can get to these zoning changes that we know need to be taken care of. So I'm gonna let you keep going there, Barry. Sorry.
I think actually in listening to this, just some thoughts that came to mind before I keep going, where I think for the sake of the master plan, the point of that document wouldn't be to get into the absolute minutia and specifics of each of these things, but to kind of give you a broader goal of what you're trying to accomplish. And I think what this is really getting at is kind of, well, there's an equity issue as well as, reducing barrier to entry to housing, supporting the schools, supporting the farmers. So you've got, there's kind of an overall goal for that support for those different areas in your community. And then, so your objectives as a planning commission might be to go, okay, we've got a lot of topics to explore. One of them is if we're gonna let farmers split off a lot here or there to help get through a bad season or whatever they need to do, how are we gonna do that? What ordinances do we need to look at to address that? Another one might be if we're gonna reduce the barrier to entry for like a family that's trying to come in and find affordable housing that may support the schools and businesses locally. That's why in the open house, we had a photo that showed huge open lots, smaller lots, subdivisions, apartment complexes and condos to get a flavor, sort of a variety of photos were up there to get a flavor for what people might tolerate. And there are actually some higher density condo and apartment type developments. I think there is some interest in, as long as they are done in such a way that it kind of fits in with the character of the township. And it doesn't look like something you'd find in downtown Detroit. So there's a lot of just different things going on. They're just objectives. You're gonna have to tick off one at a time, kind of going through that list as you consider that for the master plan. That was my
Thank you.
2 cents.
No, thank you. It helps summarize where we're at right now and what we need to be focusing on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So the next thing was talking about building a sense of community. One thing to consider is looking at the M72 corridor and some possibilities of coordinating with the newly created Metropolitan Planning Organization, looking for associated funding. That was not necessarily ranked by the group, but it was something that was discussed. Also, the downtown development, your village zoning district. So I think what we learned between the open house and the workshop that we just conducted is there's definitely a flavor to have more of a downtown Williamsburg, or something that maybe, for lack of a better way of putting this, looks more downtowny. That's not a technical term, of course, but and that could be achieved a number of ways. Sometimes to support some development like that, you may have to look at, clustering some type of PUD district or higher density housing closer to that downtown district that becomes more walkable or something like that. So it's not always just about, we talked a lot in those open houses, had, again, photos and examples of what a downtown could look like. What do you like? What don't you like? But in order to even support that, that becomes a broader issue of having the amenities that even a small downtown would have, which is that walkability factor, and safety and all those things that, we could go into more detail on, but probably not tonight. But there was an interest in that, and that actually ranked number one for building a sense of community. So that's gonna require looking at the village zoning district. That also came in at number two, talking about looking at doing mixed uses downtown, which might include some housing, or if you do a first floor, retail or restaurant, do a loft house or apartment above it, that type of thing. And then there was also some, number three came in talking about the water and sewer has got to basically be figured out. Now, I don't think there's a solution to that, and the way I just stated it verbally is not what I wrote into the memo. But that's kind of what they're getting at. It's very expensive to develop that type of thing. You know that. You've had a study done. I think it was looking at connecting to the casino water tower and everything. At one point, I don't know how long ago that study was done, but not too long ago. So there's definitely, again, an interest in that, but then I think there's an acknowledgement from the people that went through this open house that they realize there's a cost and some infrastructure that would have to be associated with this, and we need to think about how you're going to afford something like that. And then there were a lot of other things that group didn't really get into ranking or talking about. Sorry, I'm skipping around a little bit here. I have some notes written that you guys don't see. So under planning, the next planning principle under encouraging economic opportunities, the number one thing that was brought up was pursuing designation as a redevelopment ready community through the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. This is just my opinion, and I sort of interjected this into the notes here. I think what they were saying was there's an understanding that getting that designation opens up some grant funding opportunities that might not otherwise be there if you don't have that designation. You are not required to have that designation by law. There's no reason in regards to that why you would necessarily need to have it. And there are things you could do and grants and funding you can pursue without it. I think that what they were driving at is that there are just more opportunities potentially, and more importantly, the ability to kind of follow best practices as prescribed. The MEDC put a lot of time and effort into developing that redevelopment ready community project. I remember when it first kicked off. It's probably been around about 11 to 13 years now, roughly. I want to say when it initially started. And it was designed and it's evolved over the years. I mean, it started as one thing, it's almost morphed into something completely different. It's really become a toolbox of best practices for communities to follow, lessons learned from hundreds of communities across Michigan, and some that are out of state, as far as what does and doesn't work. And that's kind of how they developed their funding program and grant mechanisms that are associated with it. So that was an interesting one that came up number one under the economic opportunities. And then again, looking at that, the C1 commercial zoning district, which they were talking about doing some kind of facade and landscaping improvement. I think C1 looks like are kind of your M72, just outside of Williamsburg, maybe along M72 corridor a little bit. And then expanding the industrial area was another high-ranking item, as well as looking at architectural design in commercial districts, specifically commercial, but also specifically not residential. That was noted in there. So I think you have more of a flavor to look at, which makes sense that, if you're looking at this is the entryway to the town, everybody comes through this corridor, we should, make it look good, have it be a good presentation, give our town a good face. So those were some things that kind of came up to the top. A couple other items we talked about a little bit already. The short-term rentals were there in number 5 for the economic opportunities section. Again, I think you just saw from the conversation you just had, short-term rental, lot sizes, cluster development. All these things are tied together. You have to find a careful balance that's going to work in this community to get a mix of those things that you want. I think generally you've got residents saying yes, they're in support. About 2/3 of people that responded to your survey are in support of doing some kind of short-term rental or allowing for it. But, or asterisk here, you got to have regulations in place, and those regulations are definitely going to tie in to like other things like lot sizes and which district they're allowed in. And I'm sure you'll discover more as you go on and explore that. And then also kind of capitalizing off of some of the infrastructure that's already there, such as using the abandoned rail track, which runs south of downtown Williamsburg. I think it goes north around the casino, and then it comes into the township and then goes kind of cuts south on what you'd consider to be. Yeah, and then disappears. It's just gone, right? Yeah, so it's an abandoned railway, but there's an opportunity for some kind of non-motorized or economic type opportunity there, or non-motorized transportation or something. We didn't get into the specifics of what it could be, but it's an opportunity. And those were kind of the biggest ones there. They also talked about the school property being used as a multi-purpose building. I mean, obviously that's going to depend what happens with the schools going forward and all that. Some of that's, you could, work with the school district on. Some things are going to be out of this committee's control in that regard, but it was another thing that was mentioned. Also, in the packet, there are all the pictures and everything that have all the comments, all that written down in there. Any of the handouts that we gave out, which all those planning principles are in there, that we've been talking about. There's also the fact sheets that Randy had put together on zoning and common zoning questions as it pertained to the township, just all for your reference. Some of the comments, I know if you zoom in on the PDF version of this online, a little hard to read. I think I already shared, and if I didn't, remind me to do this. I do have the high resolution photos of all that you can zoom in and just see everything as if you were standing right in front of it and read it as clear as day. So that's what I have for you.
Where is that?
So I don't know if was that posted online, or is that something I should share out again?
I don't think we shared that with the planning commission yet until this was accepted, I guess.
Okay.
But then
I feel like it's on I'm looking right now. I thought it was on the open house pictures.
all of it,
Yeah, there's open house.
It is the PDF online. It's so
You can read the PDF, but I have even clearer shots.
is that open house or workshop?
open house, the open house online.
Okay, but then there's the workshop images with these photos that you took.
Yes, I have them all from
Okay.
all the high res photos from the open house and the workshop. I think you have the PDF of the workshop online.
Okay.
But not, or I'm sorry, of the open house online, but not the workshop.
That's correct. Yes.
So ultimately, we would be able to post all of that on the township website. Right, just,
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
make one of those shared.
Do we need a consensus on it or a vote or to do that?
well,
That's what we've been doing.
Is
Yeah,
vote or
we-
consensus?
It's available to us, we should use it.
Yeah, well, to post it.
to post it on the website.
Yeah, so,
I mean, so a resident who wasn't there or wants to review what was done
right.
is able to go to the website, see that.
Yeah, the other thing is, and I noticed especially like on this sheet that has lots of different, this is additional comments. Sometimes people use the technique to group the similar ones together, and you could potentially also just type those out or transcribe them so that everybody's not staring at it like this, trying to, Sorry, so everybody's not struggling to summarize the data. I know you have to be careful not to do with that with bias, but to try and put similar comments together, like if there were 4 comments on short-term rental, you could put those together. They were clearly associated with one another. I'm just, I mean, there's options on how to do this.
Yeah, I've used, participated, in surveys where that's exactly what we did. That way you end up kind of with 3 or 4 areas where they're not the same comments, but they're similar enough that they fall into a certain category, and it kind of tells you where you ought to be putting your effort.
Similarly, some of these charts, like, I didn't know if at any point if anybody was gonna actually tally the dots. You know what I mean? You can kind of see it. But I didn't know if that was part of the plan.
Go
I'm just
ahead.
using this as an example.
Right,
Some of
Randy.
the ones at the top had more dots, some of the ones down here had a lot less dots.
I think what we can do easily is to go and if, as we're debating some of these issues and digging into something more specific, we can go back to the information and be able to dig deeper into what people said. If we want to know more about the comments from short-term rentals, we can look through it and then group material together to do it on more of a case-by-case basis.
So you're talking about analyzing it as the need presents itself.
Right.
As opposed to just analyzing for the sake of analysis.
I think the pictures are the same thing as the raw data in this. The pictures are what they are the raw data.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing as what we had here with the final report. This is just raw data. Nobody really wants to go through it and look, but we're going to use it to get the information we need for the reports.
And so the benefit of that is that if you came to the workshop and you wrote something on a note, it is there
Right.
for everyone to see. It's not pushed aside or everyone's voice is heard.
And also the planning principles are somewhat like that, where they were developed based on some of the comments and everything that especially reoccurring common themes too. So those are sort of a summary in a way of what the information was that was collected from that as well.
So this is, I believe, a major step forward for the township to actually have 3 different distinct efforts to get public opinion before we start writing anything in the master plan that has to do with future action, zoning changes. I mean, we've talked about things in general, but from now on, then we can go and be guided by what residents told us in the survey, the open house and the workshops.
So what is the next step from here?
Well, I guess that's the next agenda item, next 2 or 3 agenda items.
Okay, so, well, thank you very much, Barry. You guys were so
you.
professional and wonderful and helpful, and you don't have to leave, but if you want to, we won't hold you here. But we do really appreciate all your work. It's very professional and you guys did a great job.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. It's been great working with everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So,
Barry.
and of course, if you need anything else, I know Randy knows how to get a hold of me and we can follow up with some items if you need to, but.
Great.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thanks.
So we should go right into the ROS.
Yes. So is there consensus about posting the
Oh,
the
that's
report
right.
on the website then as provided?
It's,
Or if you'd like. me
it's,
to-
what did you think? So
Okay.
it's up to you.
Is that the completed copy? Is that the completed version?
That's the public input summary, yeah.
That's the deliverable that was required.
Now, did we decide on the high resolution? That he was going to possibly post and so if they wanted.
I can just make a link that I'll share with Randy that just
Okay.
has them on there, like you can download them from the cloud and then do whatever you'd like to do with
Okay.
them.
Give
So
it to Lois
I'll
to,
make a motion that think we need a motion?
Just need a consensus. So is everybody good with posting the high resolution open house and workshop photos?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. So yes. Thank you.
Or will it be a link to his cloud version of it?
I would suggest, once I send you everything in the cloud, upload it through your own website, only because we tend to delete things that take up a lot of space in the cloud after about 30 days. So they'll be there for a month and then the links won't work anymore.
Makes sense. Thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So ROS, you guys have been amazing. And you have helped us tremendously and we appreciate all of your help. And I know in the original kind of ask, I think that as far as I can tell, that's been completed for the items that we needed your assistance with. So now we just need to decide, do we look at changing that role? Or how do you guys feel about continuing, stopping? If we did need, do we need as a group, we need to talk about, do we need them to continue? Where are we at? What's next? And how do or don't we incorporate ROS, I guess is what I'm throwing out there.
Well, I'll just start here, but I guess, I'm looking at the date here, it was December 20th when that memo was written, and it was first talked about as a year ago that we first talked about the need for an ROS. That time, we had a number of other development proposals that were floating around. We thought that the citizen participation component of this work was so important that it needed to have a committee focused just on that, working on the survey itself. Remember, we had to develop the questions from nothing, or just basically the old survey from 2009, but then planning for that survey, launching it, getting results, working with Networks Northwest, then going on to the open house and then going on to the workshop. So there was a ton of work that needed to happen. And so the ROS was able to step in and make all that happen, make it look seamless, I think, in terms of the communication between the planning commission and the ROS. That was what originally it was set up to do. Now, at this point, the next phase is developing our master plan, the key components of it, based upon what was generated. There is also, once we have a draft done in probably 3 or 4 months, we'll need to have additional public outreach. We'll have to make this available for the public to review. There is the statutory requirements in the Michigan Planning Enabling Act that says there's public hearings and there's distribution and all that, but it's not near as involved as what we've done in up till now. So I think the ROS has been amazing in terms of what they've been able to do, the insight, and I think going forward, the steps are for the future drafts, the next 3 or 4 chapters of the plan to be prepared. I would hope that the ROS would stay involved and able to comment on seeing that we've held true to the pulse from the township residents.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
That would be a huge help. So do you think, so you would view it as combined ROS during that portion, just like we're doing now, where they're invited to participate at our PC meetings to comment on the master plan processes, and making sure that we're staying true to all of the work they helped us get to this point? Is that how you see them, but just not having separate?
Well, I
meetings?
guess I'd be interested in some feedback from the ROS members as well.
Yeah.
Giving us blank stares out there, does that mean you don't want to do it?
Come up to the podium and tell us how you
They had
feel.
enough already.
While they do that, I'd just like to say that these people have done awesome work.
Mhm.
I mean, they've been through 2 chairs and it was seamless. It was not, I mean, all we really did is facilitate and they just moved right on from just like it was planned. I mean, it was I mean, here I jumped in and I jumped in and I didn't really have to do anything. I just had to just move along with you guys because you were doing such a great job. So I just want to thank you. And it's a valuable resource.
It is. How you gonna say no to that?
Yeah, Randy and I talked a little bit about, how, what do we do with the information that's been gathered so far? And he suggested, and I see his point, and having worked in big committees and having worked in small groups myself in the past, I realized that sometimes small groups without any voting rights still are able to present material to a bigger committee and a bigger group and do it more efficiently. Understanding that what would be presented, it certainly has to be modified and approved or disapproved. And I've never done a master plan before, but I think with guidance from the Planning Commission and Randy that I'm willing to continue.
Amazing, great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This picture, what is that?
I enjoyed the process thoroughly. I'm not quite sure at this point with the master plan update that you're reformatting it to be done by April 2024, which I just want to comment that article you wrote on the front of the newsletter was fabulous. But what is, you can't change anything in the master plan as to my understanding. You're just reformatting.
No, in the master plan, we're actually writing new goals, new policies, new initiatives for the township. It's the zoning that we're trying to keep neutral and not changing any substance to.
So there won't have to be any board approval or before you're finished with your.
The master plan will need to be, the board has to approve its distribution. It's kind of weird in the Planning Enabling Act, the way it sets up the approval process, and we'll talk about that.
This is just my personal opinion about the ROS. There are different topics to pursue. The one I'm thinking mostly of is short-term rental. There are people who are really want to work on that. That's their passion and where they want to move forward. And the more people we can involve in the community in these ROSs, the better it is to draw people in, and it develops a sense of community as part of one of the goals. So I don't know if you want to. I would not wait on any particular topic, because I have done. I'll just and this is just what I have done. About 8 years ago, I had an idea that I thought was pretty good, and I mentioned it to a few people. It didn't get on anyone's agenda, and then October, my husband was sitting next to someone from like MEDEC, the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. And he said, "Oh, my wife has this idea about this." And he goes, "That's a really good idea. Do you mind if I steal that?" I'm like, 8 years. So, I mean, these things don't move fast. So if you really, it took a year for us for the ROS. It doesn't seem like a year, but a year is nothing. It took us 5 years to get someone from the Michigan MSU Research Center on Center Road in Leland County. We asked them to come out and they said, sure. And through all of our conversations through the years, it took 5 years. Nothing moves really quick is what I'm saying. So if there are so many topics that you've talked about, short-term rentals, road ordinance, lot sizes, I mean, you could have.
I would say, I don't want to interrupt you, but I think there's 2 or 3 different things going on here. So for the ROS is master plan specific, but I don't think that there's any reason not to have subcommittees as we get into the zoning stuff. And I also, and the third piece to that is, I don't think and you make a really good point, that talking about maybe in January on that agenda, how many different subgroups do we want and which do we want those topics to be, and start soliciting people for those, so that as we finish our master plan, those groups, am I on the right track, Randy? So,
Yeah.
so we talk about ROS tonight, and then maybe on the January agenda, we talk about how many and in what topics we want subcommittees to start helping us get to the zoning part. Because by the time they get started, if we start soliciting January, February, it might be March, April before
Yeah.
they can even start, which,
That's what I'm thinking.
yeah,
I'd like to suggest something on that.
go ahead.
I think we should try to stay away from having multiple groups. We have one core group already.
Yeah.
And I think we should build off of that.
Absolutely.
And whatever we want to call it, it doesn't matter. But if we can start with a group that we have dedicated people to, that we can add to as necessary,
Mhm.
and then we just throw things to them.
Okay, so
Right.
instead of
Instead of-
multiple groups, you have the one
Right.
and just
'Cause
grow
it's
that.
hard to try to get group people for this.
Well,
group,
yeah,
for
you'd
that
have
group.
a lot going on when.
Right, where if we have one group that's already formed,
True.
you know, whether we say that, okay, that's group's not gonna meet again until April is fine, but at least we've got that group. And just build off of it. That's my suggestion.
So maybe in January, we talk about what topics we would want them to throw to them to take off of our plate to bring back to us,
Exactly.
and start soliciting additional people for that group. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
That
Yeah.
drove that, I think that would be.
And
Okay.
then if you can, use a budget for the ROS,
That's a good point. Yeah,
Thank
thank you.
by the,
So,
okay. All right.
okay, so budget,
I don't think we should be entertaining any work on new ordinances until we're done with the master plan.
that's what we're saying.
That's
what we're
Yeah,
saying.
that's
Yeah.
what we're saying. So we would just begin, are you here, do you hear me okay? Okay, so what we would be doing in January.
Doing the advance one.
Oh, great. Thanks for letting me know.
That's more information than we needed.
So we would be talking about in January, what topics we would want them to take on come April as our master plan finishes up. So we just start the discussion of which of these are going to be our priorities that we need to farm out, so to speak, so that we have more time to focus on other stuff. And also that would give us a couple months to start getting the word out and trying to get additional people interested in that subcommittee. Does that make sense? But they wouldn't start their work until the master plan is done.
I think we're gonna have a lot of trouble with with short-term rentals. I've had to deal with them on the lake in the past where they're not legal. But you can ruin the whole township if you don't do it right.
All right, well, we're gonna
One of
save
the-
that. We're gonna pause on that one because we could go down there all night. So I like that. Do we need to do a consensus on that or anything, or do we need to do anything on? So we're just, you're welcome, come every meeting, if I understand this right. We want your input, we want your feedback, but we're gonna just pause on individual meetings for a few months until we're ready to. Okay,
Are they all,
Vacation.
you
are they all
get,
volunteers? Are they all agreeing to come back?
yes, I think so, right?
Is everybody agreeing to return?
I guess I'm confused if we're planning to have the master plan presented to you by April. Then we need to have meetings between now and April for the ROS.
Okay, so
That's my thought, but I'm not sure
Go
if
ahead
that's what
and-
you're saying.
Let me suggest, I guess that kind of goes on to item 4. Just in terms of the process forward in the development of the master plan. It's my thought that what we should do would be give me the time to put the future chapters together and put this in a way that organizes all the information we have and organize that according to our planning principles and what our initiatives are going to be and generally how they're going to be approached. and then have that in the form of the master plan and have these chapters come forward in future meetings. I guess, you know, we shared with you the first 4 chapters early and got comments back on that. So I'm already working on chapters 5 and 6 right now that you haven't seen because they're nowhere near done. But based upon what I've seen from the input so far. So what I would think would be we, in future meetings, either planning commission and or ROS or however you want to do it, a flow of the future 3 or 4 chapters to conclude the master plan. And then perhaps the ROS can look at those and offer some comments. And again, with the perspective of, are we staying true to what the residents told us? You know, are we matching that accurately?
So I think what Tom is saying is, well, or what I'm gonna say is, we've hired Randy's gonna write the master plan for us, so we would need you to read it as he brings it forward to us, help make sure that we're staying true to all of this other workshop, survey and open house stuff, and help us stay unbiased and make sure that we're looking at the whole picture of what the majority wants.
Or there's nothing missing in there, or that
Right.
maybe not presented properly or whatever. I mean,
Isn't the work of the ROS done? The subcommittee's done? Now that we've had the input from the community, it's in his shop to help us write the new master plan. Why do we need these subcommittees?
So
anymore?
what we're
They
discussing.
tend to go on forever.
Yeah. So what we're discussing is, right now, there's a pause on the ROS, essentially. They can come to our meetings and help us make sure what Randy's work is accurate and not missing any information. And then we will utilize those same folks in a different aspect going forward, like April-ish and forward, when we start getting into zoning and making zoning changes. Does that make sense? Are you
I'm
comfortable
not
with
sure
that?
you would want the same people working on a different subject. Maybe you do. Maybe there are other people that would be more appropriate.
So one, yes, it's all related, and 2, we're saying the same core group and adding in more people from the community. We know these folks work hard and do a wonderful job, and so why would we want to
Well, I'm
get
not-
rid of them?
No,
Right.
I'm not arguing against that.
No,
I'll just say that if that work for that committee is done, get a new committee, maybe the same people, maybe different people, but I've seen in the past where, and I, especially in government, committees go on forever.
yeah,
And they're not doing a damn thing.
Okay, Carl, did you listen to what he said? How we were gonna reinvent the committee? Did you listen to what he said, or
Yeah.
didn't you hear it? Okay.
And that's my point.
yeah, but we would be adding to the group,
we'll be
you know, and changing kind of the role. But for right now, the actual original ROS, you're right, their tasks are complete. We're asking them to help us. They've been very involved. They know all of this just as well as us, if not better. And so they can help make sure that what Randy's doing is accurate and not missing any data. So we're just asking them to come to our regular PC meetings and help review the work that Randy's doing.
We're just
Okay.
asking for their input for,
Yeah.
we don't have a job for them right at the moment, but we still would like to have their input as we move forward.
My point, but my other point on that is maybe there's, in some of these other things we're getting into, there'd be some other people, well, yeah.
We hope to have additional people.
Additional people, but if you don't get any more, at least you got 3 to 4 people.
And that's a good point Heidi make. There isn't a long list or a long line. We're very, very grateful to have them and I think we should utilize them.
Yeah.
No, I disagree with that. I'm just saying maybe in another role, there are some other people that would be very.
We're not denying.
We already
anybody,
agreed to that.
but-
Okay.
Yeah, tell your neighbors. Tell them you're gonna need them in April. Okay, I'm gonna move us on. I think we've
Yep.
hammered that one out, so we're gonna go into drone photos. That's cool. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna move out of the way.
I like them.
Good, I want to ask a question about what is in one of those pictures. I can't figure out what it is.
You want to light on? I don't know which switch it is, but. Watch out, right?
The corner, this one, yeah. Takes a minute.
Pictures, how many?
Yeah, that's
pictures
all
you
I
have?
got too.
Okay. Heidi's got
In
a
the
different-
package, that's all I got.
Heidi's got a different picture. I'm gonna go sit over here.
So this shouldn't take long here, hopefully.
Guys,
This shouldn't take long, but I just learned about a month ago that my neighbor is a college kid going through the drone school at the college here and so anyway, in talking with him, I said, well, we could use some pictures of the township for the master plan. And so, one thing led to another, and we grabbed a number of pictures here. His company is Horizon Drone Services. And so just one afternoon, we went out here about a month ago and started getting a few pictures of things. And I just wanted to share them with you because I think this is helpful we have aerial photography of the township that comes from the county. And that's very good for a lot of things, but this can show you, for number one, this is current. This is as of a month ago. Number two, it shows you building heights and tree heights and gives you a better idea of what's there. So if you're not familiar, if this doesn't look clear to you, this is the park, the township park. That's Old 72 going in the foreground, and Elk Lake Road going north and south. And there's Elk Lake in the background. So I've got a few of these images. I just want to go through them real quickly with you. This was just Old 72 and 72 looking east. You can see the fire station with the red roof there. This is the railroad tracks we talked about earlier that disappear a little bit to the left, which would be the east. This is looking again this is looking west, actually. That's East Bay. Out there, you see the casino and the water tower, Old 72 and M72. Just another view of that. Kind of same perspective. This is looking pretty kind of southwest, more or less. You see the fire station, Old 72, Elk Lake Road. Similar kinds of shots. There's a park. And the image I started off with, the park itself. That's Mill Creek School there in the upper left. And Old 72 going nearby. This was interesting. This was, there's the church, the Methodist church in the lower right, Church Street, the Township Hall, which we're in Old 72 and M72. It's interesting how much land there is in there. You don't notice, you see the creek, which I think is Bissell Creek, that comes through there. You don't see that very well. It just looks all pretty overgrown. In fact, somebody in one of the workshops mentioned, couldn't that be used for something more than that? Maybe that's a future park or something. I don't know. But I thought it was interesting. But that's actually fairly wide in there.
It's all pretty wet land.
Mhm.
When is it?
Yeah,
Earlier
yeah.
In all these discussions about the tributaries and the small creeks, in all these discussions about the small creeks and the residential along them, a lot of that land is really undevelopable. A little bit of it is, but on a lot of those creeks, they're not gonna let you build. There's
Just a wetland.
It's just wetlands,
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
so.
You couldn't build there, but there's other open space uses like
Right.
parks or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that,
those-
or picnic
yeah.
areas or things like that
Boardwalks or
potentially.
walkways or something, yeah.
So just a couple more shots of that. There's M72 and Church Street. And okay, so here's the thing I wanted to talk about also, there's Mill Pond, which looks larger than it does in my mind when I drive past it. It's a pretty substantial body of water there. You see Williamsburg Road, Church Street there. There's a lot of history in that area too, if they've read some of their first chapters of the master plan. This is what I was talking about in terms of density. This is some of the homes back in here, mostly all duplexes. This is probably one of the most dense places in the township in terms of housing units per acre. But as you drive by that, you never know it's there, because it's designed well. The trees or the homes are shielded from the tree, or the trees shield the homes. It's fairly compact. They're duplexes, which is much more affordable.
And you can't do short-term rentals in there. You can't even rent them out for any length of time.
But they have their own HOA.
I think that's really an important thing to keep in your mind here about density, because if you looked at how many units per acre there was here compared to, I mean, I don't know, what is that? 10 acres altogether? You got, I don't know, 20, 30 units there. No, I don't know exactly. I haven't counted them, but there's a couple more shots of that.
Oh, this kid did a really nice job.
Yeah, I think
You
this
write
is
him a
great.
letter so you get some credit for school?
And then some of the industrial
It's
areas
10
to the
acres.
west. What's that?
10
At
acres.
10 acres. There's got to be 15, 20 units in there, I think. So,
Yeah,
Stop counting.
is that
yeah, I'll bet.
okay? So you look at,
Actually 9.79.
okay. And then looking at Williamsburg Road. That's Williamsburg Road, crisp, looking south.
The development we've just been looking at in the pond is here in the foreground.
So I've started to use some of these in the chapters where we asked people for their favorite views of the township. And so I took some of the images here that relate to that. Elk Lake Road was by far the most popular view that people had of the township. And so anyway, I just wanted to share that with you, and we'll see some of those images more in the master plan. We can get more as well if we're trying to show some areas.
Randy,
Yeah.
there are 46 homes in there,
46.
46 net.
23 buildings, double that.
Yeah,
Wow. So that's got to be one of the most dense places in the township.
but yet you would never know by looking at it.
Right. Yeah. Very.
Is that
I think that's what that was, if I'm not mistaken. Was, okay. So that's the kind of more creative kind of development that you can get rather than chunking things off acre by acre. And so you have to get away from the thinking that density is the only thing that matters. So anyway, this is kind of a sideshow here in terms of, but thought it was kind of interesting to be able to share that with you.
Question might be a little bit off topic, but like this development we're just looking at, we're talking about how the trees hide the development from the road. Trees don't live forever, so when those trees are gone, does that development have to replant those trees? How does that work? I don't quite understand how all that works. I mean, they've got it hidden by the trees now, but trees die. They're not gonna live forever.
Right, you have
And
to
the
look,
buildings will be there longer than the trees.
right,
That's
but
just
you might have to look in their HOA.
Up to the HOA to take care of.
So it's each individual development's rules.
so
Okay.
Randy, is that something that can be in a PUD though, right?
Yeah, I
Like-
think you could have some requirements in there about maintenance of the tree canopy and maintenance of the vegetation in there as part of a condition of a PUD approval. So there'd be a way to address that. Much the same way you'd want to be sure that that open space is always open space. You know, that the areas that are, right?
Guys, that's so they don't end up putting a building in there. in their open space.
Right.
We don't see much of an open space in this one.
There was one picture that showed a big open space.
Yeah, that's septic area that they can't, can't build.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
So there's a combined septic system in that?
Pardon?
There's a combined septic?
Yeah,
system?
it's, each one of those, from what I understand, has their own water well, but the septic system are tied, they're tied together. I've seen some, pumps in there where they're taking it in that big area there in the center. I believe that's probably where it is. And they have a backup. They have a system 1 and a system 2.
Hmm.
So, and they've switched out of the one into the other, so.
Those are really neat pictures.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's kind of
those are
cool.
nice.
That's
And
nice to see
what's
that.
nice about that, it shows that we can have the density that we may need. But if we do it carefully, it can turn out like that as well. So it can be a good thing.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yep.
There's a neat little app, it's called X Hunt. X Hunt. And you can click on X Hunt. You can click on a parcel of land and it'll tell you exactly how much land is there, who owns it. And a bunch of other information on that.
So if you like to stalk people.
There's a lot,
Kidding.
there's a lot of different apps.
But I'm
It's
just saying,
very
you know,
common. Onyx is
Onyx
does-
is,
does the same sort of stuff.
yeah, that's the off-road part of it, yeah.
You're a techie guy.
No, I know a lot of guys that use it.
Yeah.
I have a question.
I have that,
I don't have that picture.
Was in the packet.
that picture.
Oh, let me see that picture.
What are you looking?
Wait, no, I don't have that picture.
I don't have that one either. I was
No.
trying to figure that out. You have
There's
this
only
one?
2 pictures in the packet. What is it?
What picture are you on?
Look at this. What is it? Oh, it's because she's zoomed way in. Where are you? Zoom out for a
Yeah,
second.
probably you can't see it because it's black. and-
Zoom out so we know what picture you're looking at.
Zoom out. Hang on.
Very
Okay,
cool.
Control minus.
Yeah, or you can do the, like this, like you do on your phone, on the keypad.
What is that in that person's back there?
Oh, you stalker.
Oh, what is that?
All right, we're moving on. Okay, yep. we're
Yeah,
moving
he's out
on.
behind the township hall.
It's like a bunch of pockets or something like, what could it be? It's the recycle.
Okay, so here's your lessons for today. Control plus, control minus.
Okay,
Looks like a bunch of coffee.
anything else related to the master plan that we need to do tonight? No, okay, we're gonna move on to zoning project update. And this is Randy and Al about the map. The ever interesting maps.
Yeah. Mind if I start out?
Go ahead.
Okay, so Al and I have had some conversations about the zoning map here. Now, you remember that our ordinance describes our zoning districts with legal descriptions. And that's something we want to move away from. And what we have done and what has been available in the township for some time is this zoning map right here, which was blown up here. It appeared in the 2015 master plan, and it's also been on the township website. That map was blown up and then used at the meetings. That's what the township has put out there for 10, 15 years as the official zoning map for the township. So this map is of unknown origin, I'm told, in terms of where it came from, who drew it. And so our goal is to try to get a new zoning map that is going to be accurate and clear. And I wanted to just explain a little bit about how zoning maps are produced. And they're typically produced now with GIS systems that have basically used data layers where the layers are either images like air photos or they're vectors, lines, and polygons. The polygons are typically parcels. And the raster images are the aerial photography, not the drone things, the photography that's flown at a really high level and with crazy precise resolution. So typically what's produced by counties and some in larger cities are maps that show parcels. And then you take that parcel layer and you put your zoning districts on it. The county maintains the parcel data based upon their equalization offices, which as land is split and or combined or parcel lines change, the county each year puts out a new map showing new parcels. Makes sense. What you end up with then are zoning maps that look often like this. These are just a couple that I've worked on before. It's Erie Township down in Monroe County, West Carrollton outside Dayton, Ohio, and Coldwater, Michigan, just in the southern part of the state. But generally, they all look pretty much the same. They're basically the parcels that are colored. Sometimes they're not colored. Sometimes you just use blocks, but they're all showing where the zoning boundaries start and stop. Now, we have that here for the township. This is the layer, the parcel layer that the county gave us. That's the yellow lines that shows all the parcels. You can also go online and see, I forget, Grand Traverse County Equalization or GIS, and you can pick out a parcel and it'll tell you who owns it and give you a little bit of information about each one of them. It's the same source of data that that they put out there is also made available to local governments. And so that's what we're going to work with. Now, each year that layer is updated because parcels can be split, they can be combined. There's changes like that that are made. So
Can I just add to that?
Mhm.
What's nice about the layers is I manage the 911 layer for the county. So when our layer goes on, our layer won't change. Underneath it might change. So as he said, as parcels change in size, whatever, that part might change, but our layer won't change. So if an area is R1, it doesn't matter what changes below it, it'll always stay R1. The parcel sizes might change, a road might go in or whatever, but at least we'll manage and the zoning work layer of that won't change unless that could be voted on by the board then.
Mhm. And then this is the same information that the township assessors get. Because as property is changed, either combined, split, whatever, obviously that impacts how it's taxed. I don't know anything about how that process works, but the assessors get the data from the county, and then change typically it's BSNA software or something that they use for the taxation systems. And they have a whole database set up for each property that shows what's built on the property, when the improvements were made, how many square feet your house is, all the things that go into calculating how much taxes you owe. So where we are right now is Al and I met with Josh over at the county and have started to work on getting a zoning map that is consistent with what has been put out there by the township for the last 10, 15 years. We have a couple of small issues here. I just zoomed in on one. There's things that don't jive completely. We're just trying to work through that and I just circled the areas where they were zoomed in. The map on the left they're both the same map. I just zoomed in what's on the right. And because if you compare that to what's up there on the board, they're not the same. So we've got to make a few corrections here to get the parcels zoned the same way that the map is shown on the existing master plan and on the township website.
So are you highlighting like the circle on the right where it's like a red block, but it's got a couple yellow splotches.
Yeah,
Is it the yellow splotches you're trying to address?
yeah, the yellow splotches don't show up on that map.
So are the
Or-
splotches supposed to be there or not supposed to be there?
Sure.
Actually, I
Yes.
think those yellow splotches are on that.
Okay, there must be some other issue there with that
Okay.
I circled.
And like, what's the issue around the mill pond?
It is the area that's shown as yellow. And so we need to compare those a little more closely and make sure that they're right.
Make sure they're accurate.
Yes.
Okay, so you're just
And-
trying to
and-
make sure all your colors are right.
Yes, and the industrial area is wrong. And so there's also work going on with the surveyor to review the legal descriptions and see. So anyway, I just wanted to update you on what the time's been spent here lately on some of this.
Yeah.
And we're gonna need more eyes on this to make sure that we have this right. And then Al, I don't know what you want to cover, but I guess you also mentioned the concern about having a disclaimer on the.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things. Our township actually is in 3 counties. We've got Kalkaska, Antrim, and of course Grand Traverse. So our boundaries, we should know, they should be surveyed. So when we have a mark on the map, it's where it actually is. And what I was gonna propose is we have a surveyor, have him pick some points on our map where with our crucial, we don't have to survey the entire map, but just some good reference points so that when we say that like this here is there, that it is actually there, and that we would have a legal description to go with it, because the surveyors would, have an in-ground stake there possibly. And the disclaimers, there were several township, even the GIS has its own disclaimer. And there are several townships that do have disclaimers. There are several that don't. So there's not a good reason. I wouldn't think that Whitewater, we couldn't have a version date of that our new version is, and a disclaimer on there. But actually have our surveyor put some points in there, so points of reference, so that when we go in there and we say that this point is here on our map, it is actually there. So there wouldn't be any future lawsuits or anything to say that, well, that our map was wrong, because we have a surveyed point. And what I was hoping we could do is when you pull up the map, once we get it like we want it, let's say you could go to one of the points that we select, if it's 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever we decide we would want to put there. You could double click on it and the legal description of that pin would come up. And I think it just adds validity to what we're saying, and where the districts are very important, especially as they start to develop. So that they need to be where we say they are. And we could do that with our surveyor.
So do other townships do that?
I don't know. I'm just looking at Whitewater. The disclaimers, some do, some don't.
Yeah, I understand the disclaimers.
Mhm.
I understand the comment about disclaimers, but my question is more, do the other townships like verify key points before they put out a map?
I don't know.
Because-
I don't know, but I would certainly think we would want to know that when we put out a map and somebody's looking at doing a development in Whitewater Township and they go to that point, that point is accurate.
I'm just a little fuzzy what kind of problem we're trying to prevent.
Well,
Like-
all we're doing is adding validity to our map that where those our map is correct. That when we say like this point here intersects right there, it actually intersects there. And you do that with this, just have the surveyor do it. You're proving your map.
What if it doesn't?
Well, it's gonna need to, because you have a legal description right now.
Just saying, I think that's opening up a huge can of worms.
Well, where you open up your worms is somebody does something and we agree to it and we're wrong. So right now, before it happens, we can make sure we can fix it. There's should be a legal description of, say, this point here. Okay, our surveyor would go there and he'd verify that and put in a pin. And so at that point, our maps, at that point, our map is correct, and then you could correlate off of any one of the nearest points if you wanted to. But like our industrial district would be where we say it is. Our residential district and everything would be where we say it is, because we can prove it with our map, with our pins.
I would think the only time that this would be in debate is like, for example, when a person purchases a piece of property, they get a deed with a legal description. And I thought that the point of this was just a visual explanation of what zoning district they are in. Visually.
As you can tell what parcel you have by looking at the
Right.
map and seeing that's the parcel.
And especially if
and if
this,
it's-
back to that page you had with the layers, since you're overlaying your kind of color map of districts on top of property lines per the
Right.
county.
Right.
I mean, I'm not a surveyor, okay? But I'm just trying to understand, when you own property and you have a deed and you have your legal description, and most people get a stake survey when they do that, right? I would think that that's got it covered, but I don't know. I would just wonder, is it truly necessary? I mean, I would hope it's right.
Well,
Well, just to make
mean-
sure it is right.
I know,
Us.
but isn't that incumbent upon the property owner?
What is,
It's our map, it's our map.
it's a map.
But your map is showing the zoning district.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't attach this to your deed.
No,
I
but
mean-
it's showing the boundaries of your township.
But it's not
Right.
the legal description. The map is not the legal description
Mm-mm,
of the property.
no.
I
No.
mean, it should be accurate, but how accurate, how?
Well, I guess my thing is, what would be wrong with surveying some points and putting it on there and knowing that it's right?
I think the only thing wrong about it would be the cost, right? Like, is it necessary? I don't know.
I've seen where different survey companies don't agree with each other with exactly that point is.
Exactly.
It's like if it's a foot off from another surveyor's.
There
No,
was,
I
just
guess
what-
let me ask a question, if you don't mind. Are we uncertain of our township's boundaries?
I don't think so.
No, I think what Al is getting to is the fact that we are relying on the county's illustration of the parcels. Okay, we had nothing to do with creating the parcel map. That's their job to do that. We're taking their parcel map and then identifying zoning districts based on that. So if there's a disclaimer, it would say that basically, this parcel map came from Grand Traverse County and they're responsible for the details and the accuracy of it.
So that seems like enough to me versus surveying it too. Or it's one or the other, I guess is how I
Well,
see it. I don't
there'd
know why
be
you
no
need both.
reason not to, that I can think of why you wouldn't. I mean, you could say, okay, if you have an issue, it's Grand Traverse County's problem, like, but if we survey the points, we know there's no issue. No, we don't.
How much would that cost? I guess would be my next question.
With a surveyor, one guy to go out, I would think you'd have a day and a half, and depending on how many points you wanted. But I would think if he picked up. Well, I know, yeah, there'd be 8 or 10, but that's what we decide. Where do we want these? like,
But I guess
Mhm.
we would have to get approval for the funding and all of that. So I'm wondering, like, is this just way out? Are we talking 10,000, $100? Like, I have no reference to know
There
what.
was previous meetings where I think Kim in particular said that map, as again, say we don't know where it came from, was not entirely accurate in the zones. And it was somewhere, most of it was right around the village area that there was comments made that, you know, the map itself, as far as the zoning districts, there was some minor problems.
But not the township boundary, which is what this would be identifying.
No, it was up to zoning districts.
Right, but-
Okay, they weren't.
We know that,
right.
we do know that.
Right.
So, but Al's talking about identifying the outer township boundary. And has there been any concern or question? That would be if there's not been a concern or a question with that, then that might be something we look at getting some estimates for and looking at for our next year's budget if we choose to. But for right now, I don't personally know if that's beneficial, if that's our priority right now. Let me put it that way.
Do you want to put it on a joint agenda and see what the board thinks about it?
That's not a bad idea. Maybe they have history or know more about.
It's gonna cost money. So.
yeah, and there's some been approved already by the board for survey work, but I don't know how much. Do you remember how much, Randy? Was it
No, it was
$1,000?
only for that industrial.
700, yeah.
That I know of.
Industrial district.
Yep, and my point is, if we're gonna correct or fix something in the industrial district, say, no, this is it, then we need to base that on some facts. And the facts would be, we surveyed point A and B and C. And they border this, so that is where they are, based on that fact, because we surveyed. So you have a point to correlate to,
So I think.
and you have a legal description of that point.
So I think my question to the board would be, in your historical knowledge or
you go.
understanding, has there been a concern with the boundary, or do you see a need to identify our township's boundary? Is that accurate? You were gonna talk too, Keith, so I'm sorry I interrupted
Oh,
you.
no, it's fine.
No.
I just think it's a can of worms. Only because if one point is not exactly the same, I mean, our township is based on, we already have a legal description, right? It's a legal description of the township, right?
Well, we have parcel maps. We have the parcel map that the county gives us that shows us where all the parcels are. And then
But I
identify.
thought before you mentioned that our zoning was based off of,
Well,
legal
as
description,
written now,
not-
there is legal descriptions for the zoning districts, which we want to get away from because nobody, first of all, number one, nobody does that anymore. That it's just not done. It's just too goofy because if you rezone property, you're changing two boundaries for one thing. So you have two legal descriptions to worry about to change. So 99%, 99.9% of the communities use zoning maps.
And I guess my point is to that is, if anything isn't exactly the same, how are we gonna change it? I mean,
And I guess my point is these survey point legal descriptions, or the survey points, how they measure them, don't really have to do with the fact that a property is, say, green for whatever the green usage is. You know what I mean? Like this tool is conveying the zoning. And it is true, it's overlaid on the property data, as you explained. But the bone of contention is not the mathematical position of the point. It's the zone that it's in. So the zone usage, it's not about the property boundaries, because that's the parcel map. So it's really the parcel map that has to be correct, is what I think I'm saying. You know, we're talking about, our job is what color it is to line up with the key of the zoning. If that makes sense. That makes sense to me. And I understand, Al, the importance of property stakes when you're owning property. I get that. But it just seems to me your title work, your legal description when you purchase and your personal stake survey should be taking care of all of that to make it clear where stuff is. Yeah, I'm not sure it's needed for this project.
That's on a personal piece, say in the middle of the township, but all I'm saying is would verify where our township actually is.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's in our scope.
Yeah, I believe the goal is to make sure all the zoning districts are accurate. And so my question would be, do we need any kind of surveyor help, excuse me, surveyor help? Because right now, those districts are a legal description, right? So for us to get it right on our map, do we need a surveyor's help to help us accomplish that? Or do we have somebody who knows how to read those and we can do that on our own?
Well, that's a topic I think to bring up with the town board as well, but I'm told that this is believed to be accurate, except for a question with the industrial zone. And that's where we're running that down right now.
So tell me what the question is that we need to put on our agenda with because we're meeting with the board next week. So
Right.
this is an important thing to,
It is.
so phrase me a question
I think one of the questions we should be asking is there any awareness of any potential inaccuracy of this map lining up to the legal description? Do they know anything?
Okay, so I
That
wrote
needs to
that
be
one.
verified.
In history or their knowledge, has there been an issue with the boundaries of the township's border?
Okay, that was
Right?
Al's question.
Okay,
The
and
township
yours
border, and
specific-
I'm saying, is there anything about this zoning map that's been in the master plan that they think needs to be double checked or verified? Or is there anything that they think is a potential inaccuracy, any awareness whatsoever? And then that should be verified 100%.
Besides the industrial zone, which is what we know of right now.
And,
Well, if you want me to
Okay.
bring that, let them bring that up.
well, do you know what?
Well,
that
we
is
need to
specific
fix that,
survey?
even if they don't
We
bring it up.
A surveyor's working on that now. We don't have,
Okay.
there's no answer to that yet.
All right, but you're already got that one going. Okay. But I just think any awareness that they have, because they've been in their jobs quite a while.
Well, and that covers the township boundary. That question covers anything. So if they believe there's an issue with the township border, they would bring it up at that question. I don't think we need to go down that particular rail. So I wrote, is there anything about the zoning map that needs to be double checked or we are not confident is accurate? Something like that.
Yeah.
And then except for the industrial zone, except for the industrial zone, just a second, please. Sidebar. Wait, sorry, guys. We can't have two going at once. Sorry.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay. All right, so we've got that question wrote down for the joint meeting. Okay. Anything else on the maps as far as we're concerned or that we should add to our discussion with the board?
The disclaimer issue, do we want to add a disclaimer? And how do we want that to read?
Are we there yet? That would be my only
Yeah,
question.
Yeah, I
We're
mean,
at it.
working on this map right now.
Okay,
And Randy said that it needs to be done for the master plan,
No, for the zoning
or
ordinance.
the zoning
uh,
ordinances.
yeah.
So
so that would be April, May, or no? I guess I'm
Well,
wondering, do we need
yeah.
to hammer out the
We're
definition today?
months away from.
We're months
we're
away from
months away from
defining
having-
okay, so we're gonna hold that, and maybe some of our homework between now and when we get to zoning is everybody thinking about a disclaimer and how they feel that should read or look.
Yeah, we should also have the township attorney look at that disclaimer as well, I believe.
Okay,
I think.
so do you think would the March agenda be fair to have that on the March agenda? And then we can get it to the attorney by, and get it back by our April meeting
Well,
maybe?
in my mind, the zoning clarification project includes this as well as the text. So we're only a third of the way through the text right
Okay.
now. So it all goes together as one amendment
So
in my mind.
6 months from now or something, we're
It's at
ways.
least that,
yeah.
yes.
Okay. Okay, so we're gonna pause on that, but it's a really good, we need to come back to it and don't let us forget, Al. Let's go with that. Okay, anything else on maps? Or the zoning project in general? Did you have any other updates for us?
No, I'm anxious to get the feedback from the town board when we meet with them and show them what we've done and make sure that we're not out of step with what they think we're doing and that the whole issue of clarification, not change and all that. I know they had a discussion at their last meeting about different approaches, so I want to make sure we're on the same page
On the
before we start writing anymore.
I think we're gonna jump right into that, the next agenda item, which is joint township board and PC meeting agenda. Planning and discussion for it, and I think it's the whole reason we're having the meeting, obviously, is to make sure that we're on the same page with both of these projects. And so, Randy, you mentioned to me that you might be willing or able to give a little overview PowerPoint at the beginning of our meeting that kind of summarized what's
Yeah.
going on.
I can do that, and if that would help, just kind of set the stage, I'd just maybe a few slides, in fact, I kind of started it. Well, let me suggest this one. Kind of like the drone photos. Just do something like this to talk about what we've done, next steps for both the master plan and the zoning. And just hit some bullet points about where we are, when work started, just some of the background, and then a little bit of a timeline in terms of what's been done. And then do the same thing, just the next steps, our discussion about having a draft by April. And then move into the zoning update. And that's as far as I got.
So
Is that?
I was hoping to do the packet tomorrow. Is there no, or I mean, even Friday? It would be nice to put that in it. I don't have to. But I think it would be nice to include that so that the public and everybody can see what we're seeing.
So if it's only a couple more slides, I can do that. Just a couple more to add to the zoning. The questions, I mean, what's the first several chapters have been done. We've attacked the map. As long as it's just not expecting more than a couple more slides.
No, I think it's perfect, just the overview like that, but I would, if possible, I think it would be nice to include it
Okay.
in the packet. But if you don't,
Tomorrow afternoon.
that would be great. Thank you. So I'm gonna include the PowerPoint opener. And then do you think that you do this opener, or do you think that kind of helps be our agenda to guide us in, like we stay on that slide and go into more detail of each of those things? Or what does everybody think? How do you envision our meeting on Wednesday next week?
Are we chairing the meeting? I mean, are we?
Yeah,
Facilitating?
it's our meeting.
Okay.
We've invited them. If they don't have a quorum, I believe right, that's what I was just gonna say. If they don't have a quorum, I believe we can still meet because it is our meeting and we're inviting them. No decisions by the board can be made or approvals or anything if they don't have a quorum. I believe we will have quorum for both if there was a decision needed to be made on. But essentially, the purpose is to bring them up to speed so that they don't get all of this information at once. They know where we're at. So we also know, let me also say, we will also include the first 4 chapters of the master plan or link to it, I'm assuming, and the zoning stuff so far that we've seen, everything that's been in our packet that we've already reviewed and accepted and agreed to give them a summary of. Does that sound, I mean, that's what I imagined. If you want to include, but how do we flow? How do you want this to look? What?
Yes, I would think that we would go into each subject. Tell them where we're at. Explain a couple of things that we know might be a hot topic or whatever. And then let them go into what's their guidance after that, and then go into the next topic. Do the same thing. So just, boom, 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 running down the line.
So we would start maybe just with the opening. And then do you want to go into, the opening is kind of an outline. So I'm wondering if we should pause at like the master
break it
plan
up.
and then go into that. And then before you go to your next, you know what I mean? Instead of
Okay.
using your PowerPoint as an opener and an overview, we use it as an agenda, sort of. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
It's fine.
Yeah, I think that's good.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
Then we can't get into open things where they're like, we open one thing and close it, open one thing and close it. Then we are not getting into, I want to go back to this, or,
Yeah. I think so too. So Wendy, if you send me that PowerPoint, then I will set the packet up in order, of what you
Oh,
have
okay.
on the PowerPoint. So like which I don't remember because I just briefly saw it, but wherever you have the master plan stuff, that's where I would
We'll
stick.
break it and
Well, I won't break it up in the PowerPoint, but I'll just, after the PowerPoint,
Oh.
I'll put it in that order.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everybody? So that the packet is running in order that matches the agenda sort of thing? Okay.
So they have something.
Yeah, but we'll keep up here the PowerPoint, even though we're in our packets going through more. Make sense? Okay, so do you want me to, do you want to resend me that stuff, or do you want me to pull out exactly what we used from the other for the zoning stuff? Do you want to send me?
just pull it out from the other packet,
Okay.
and that would just. And it's exactly what was in the packet,
It was
the
November.
prior meeting, right?
November meeting, yeah.
November meeting.
Okay. And then what about the master plan? Oh, well, okay, let me pause. When we're going through that, that's a lot of information with the red lines and all of the stuff for the zoning. So were there things that we need to point out or stop or pause at? Like you said, ask questions, hot topics. What are those that pop up in your mind?
Well, the hot topic, I think, how we decided that we moved forward with some of the changes.
Well, that we're limiting ourselves to clarifications of issues. We
We
are
came up
not,
with a definition, I think, at one of the meetings. One of the past meetings.
anybody who says the word change owes $5 in a
That's
bucket.
right. So it's, I think we had a really good definition we came up with. And
Is it a minute? Did I see it in there?
I think so.
Yeah, okay, so.
Just explain, this is how we decided on moving forward with these updated versions. I don't want to put $5 in the jar.
Okay. Define, yep, there it is. Can I keep this then? So I have it handy. I mean, I know I have electronic version, but it'll help remember me when I'm doing the packet. So that was one.
What else would they come up with about the ordinances? What they might,
Well, there's been the issues of the reorganization of it. We should share that with them as well, that we need, while we're doing this, we should reorganize the ordinance.
I think we did already talk to them about that.
I won't hurt to do it again.
We might want to bring up the meeting that we had with them before. I'm sure it's in the minutes there, maybe that, or some documents that we shared that, because I know we discussed it already, that we were going to reorganize it. Why? Maybe we could just use that same information and say, as we brought this to you before, we went with the same.
There's no. I might need that. Well, I was there thinking. I have.
Oh, yeah.
I have it, so let me look. Cause I wanted.
I don't know which book she has. Oh, yes, I do. Not with me, but I have it.
Was it the contract though, or Is that what it was? It was in the,
Contact for $800 if they pledge statement amount.
no, we're talking about the
No.
organizing of, I think that was in was it in your? It's in your,
It was mention of it.
contract.
Yeah, I thought we had that addressed.
I'm sure that I think there was a
Unicode.
document prior to the contract that explained why we needed it, right?
Oh,
Do you wanna look through this? You might remember
Sure.
it better well. Take out all my loose. stuff.
May 17. If there's anything in the minutes.
Here, I'll give you.
So do you really want to put all this red line stuff
They
into their
like it.
packet?
They like.
I know they like it, but why wouldn't you put a note, see the November packet and stuff? I mean, I'm just wondering. I guess it's an electronic document, so it's not that big a deal to throw it in there. I know they like it. They
Yeah.
want to see everything changed, but I don't know that it's time well spent to, I think it's better to give them an overview about how we're not making substantial changes and this is how we define that.
Yeah, I don't think we'll need to go through each page or anything like that. I
Oh.
just want them to have it in their face. They can't say I didn't see this before, I
Okay.
guess, is what I'm getting at. Like, it's like we gave it to you and we gave you an opportunity to review it easily and ask us questions and or share your concerns. And since that's how they like to see it, I
Mhm.
mean, I guess if it's 200
Right.
pages, it's 200 pages. That's why I want to get it out sooner, like, tomorrow or Friday, so they have a few days
Right.
to review it.
Right, but on your agenda, it should specifically not say review of red line document, right? Because that's not the.
The
intent.
agenda's done, the notice is done, so
Yeah,
it's pretty vague.
It was pretty generic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's just a part of the packet. It's up to them to read it in the detail they want. Some will dissect it, some will skim it, some won't look at it. I mean, that's
Okay.
just how it goes.
All right.
So I feel like it should be there myself, but I'm open to hearing other opinions.
There's no reason not to. There's no reason not to supply it. They don't have to look at it, but if they want to, it's there. And that'll be that as far as an update goes, that's a good update. What?
At least they say.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we supplied it again, so.
I think a lot of it's explained in our planning commission vision. Just tab 1 right there.
Okay,
It
planning.
talks- it goes right into various ordinances seem to now exist in a series of independent chapters in various formats. Zoning art should be more highly, it explains all that, talks about the duplicate terms. Talks about all the different things that we're gonna do, so I think we can just work off
Copy
of this
that,
and say, these are the things we've accomplished, and this is why you're seeing what you see.
So do you think I should include that page
Yeah.
again?
It's
Yeah.
actually a
Okay.
couple pages, it's 3 pages.
Okay, 3
It's even
pages.
the going forward part.
I'll just put a thing above it,
Then
like I
there's the
did, like this
attachments
was
to
in to remind them this was in our
Because
first
Randy's got
meeting.
the attachments that actually shows what he's gonna try to do, which we're doing, so, yeah, I think this whole, I think that document with attachment A next to it.
You
is-
could, yeah, you could
few
put an
pages.
attachment A, refer to your joint planning book.
What's nice about
Mostly
it.
they'll
I'll just
bring-
re-include it, and nobody's probably got their book honestly anymore, I don't know. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, there.
What else stood out in the zoning changes that we feel we need to address specifically? Anything? Okay, if there's nothing, but if there is, let's be prepared.
It may be helpful to just let them know that, I think Randy pointed this out, that there's like a topic that maybe is addressed in more than one place in the current zoning ordinance documentation. And that's all part of his process, is to bring all those together, so it'll only be in one place.
yeah,
That's what
there's
they
actually
have.
several of those that are like
I
that.
know, you got
Yeah.
lots of this where you're
Yeah.
having to grab like, I don't know, you can give them an example, but anyway. I understand what you mean, that they talk about maybe something probably not a bad example, but lot setbacks, it's here, and it's here. Now it is only in one place, it's here. And so that
So pointing-
eases, it makes sure that it's consistent and correct, and it also makes sure that in the future, it's much easier to update it.
That's spelled out.
Okay.
And
That's
maybe it's
the-
already there, but just.
Yeah,
think
I
it's
don't know if
important
you've
to
seen
remind
that,
them.
because that was the law, you know, in
Yeah,
May or something, yeah.
but it's important to remind them of that.
So I will include that document and I will just add a cover sheet or whatever that indicates this was from our meeting back in May and we've stayed true to it, you know, kind of. thing.
Everybody should refresh themselves with that too before the meeting.
Okay,
That's a
it'll
great
be,
idea.
you all want to refresh yourselves with the whole packet. So we come to this meeting informed and, That's- yeah, I mean, you don't have to read the whole red line thing again. You can skip that part. But if you know, you look for the things that I put in there, like that document that you haven't seen since May. That would be great. Anything else to point out or just open it up for what did they see that they wanted to ask about or talk about?
Well, are you gonna? Talk about budget, are you gonna bring up this? possible
Well, that's- I'm
survey
not-
Disclaimer thing?
I'm not to the budget yet. I'm to, oh, you're talking, okay, so that's. No, I'm not gonna ask them about that. When I was talking about budget, what I'm talking about is how do they want us to present it to them for budget time? How much input are we giving? What do they need from us? I'm assuming how many meetings are we gonna have? What types of meetings are we expecting to have? So that we have more control of our budget up front versus asking for money later.
Correct, and remember that last year, none of that was done, you just got a budget.
Right, so we want to
So,
do it different this.
Is it possible that there's someone in this room that would like to join me at budget time and represent the PC with me? Cause I'm usually the only one there. I was when I was a private citizen too.
When is budget time?
January, February, March, but those are, you can Zoom. So as long as you're paying attention.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the budget in just a minute because I'm thinking next in our PowerPoint, it'll be master plan. Discussion. Whichever one's first, anyway, the master plan and the zoning project are the two projects. So master plan, what are we promoting, talking to them, sharing with them and doing with that portion of it? What do I need to include in the packet?
Do we have
So-
any upcoming projects related to the master plan that haven't been budgeted?
So you will have a draft in April, at the beginning of April. Then I doubt that it's gonna be so wonderful that you're gonna just all fall over yourselves trying to approve it that night. So I think there's gotta give some breathing time in there for you to consider it. You know, you're gonna see bits and pieces along the way, but you'll see it all together in April. So.
So.
No, that was up till now. That's what we've done. It didn't go forward.
So what we would be, maybe what I would be including is just the link to the first 4 chapters, which I know they've received before. So that's not, and I know Heidi's asked several times for them to read that. So I don't think that, I think a link for that one's okay.
Mhm.
That's stuff that they have seen and had before them. But what do we need to talk to them about the master plan? Just that, just the where we're going? What questions do they have for us?
Right.
Do we want to go into detail or include this summary of the open house
Well,
and the?
I think we should.
There is, I don't know, I'll look back at it for the Michigan Planning Enabling Act talks about the town board needs to approve its distribution to adjacent jurisdictions for comment. And so there's a process that is spelled out that we need to follow. So once the planning commission is satisfied that this document is 99% where we want it, then the town board has the authority of approving its distribution. Then after that, it gets kind of wonky with public hearing requirements and things of that nature.
So maybe, and I've given this to them before, a copy of that enabling act. I included it in one of their packets before of what their role will be and what the next process is, when we were talking
Yeah.
about budget before with them.
you might think it's just the planning commission approves it, sends it to the township board and they approve it and you're done, but it's not that way.
So maybe we give them a copy of the enabling act section that shows what's coming. So maybe I include those pages in.
Yes, that's a good
Okay.
idea.
I already have those scanned, I think, so.
You might have something from your citizen planner class too. So.
I'll look at that.
Okay.
Are you going to make mention of the parts that we're working on at the moment?
Yeah, I think we would want to talk about,
I would think we would want to talk about what the first 4 chapters are done. We're working on the next 2 or 3 chapters, whatever it is you're working on.
so we're gonna do the timeline. We'll talk
that-
about
and
the
that would-
timeline, which is the timeline sort of in your thing. So that's kind of our.
That's
outline.
historical up till this meeting
Okay.
is what was on that chart. I didn't do anything going forward yet.
You know, the fact that we're digesting all of our input sessions from the public, you know, all that stuff would be good information to.
So should I include, and you were saying, yes, the summary that was just in this packet from Leah from Barry. I should include that summary in this
I
packet?
think so, yes.
I would.
Okay,
I do think they're gonna wanna see a timeline for 2024. I mean, I don't know how much time that would take for Randy to put that together, but
Probably help.
it would keep them from misunderstanding if it's in writing in front of them.
so it's,
It doesn't have to be
Ex-
super detailed, but I think, Randy, you've said you intend to have a draft to us by April. Couple months for us to process and digest, then it would go to them, and there's some other key steps as far as distributing to neighboring. You know all the stuff. I think you just have to
Yeah, I mean, just
have a
as long as
tentative
it's
timeline.
somewhat elastic. I don't know how long the planning commission needs to review it. I don't know. You know,
Yeah, I would just
Put a
label it
disclaimer.
as tentative.
Put a disclaimer underneath it.
yeah,
Any version 1.
May or not, but we may or may not follow this timeline.
Yeah. I'm sure they're gonna wanna know, you know, what's coming up. What to expect.
What we're anticipating.
Yeah.
I know they've indicated they expect more money, and I want to address that we don't expect any more, right, as far as I'm understanding, to get to the draft point. Like, we are still confident that we are good through this fiscal year with our funds.
Yeah, your contracts
Yeah,
are
yeah.
representative of your plan spend.
That's good way to put it.
Those are good.
Okay, tell me that, say that again.
Do that again, Linda.
Contracts.
Your
Here we
contracts
are.
are representative of your plan spend through the end of the fiscal year. See you later.
Plan, spend through fiscal year.
And that includes Randy's support, right, Randy? That's why it's all, yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if they're gonna quibble about an invoice that comes in at the end of April. I don't know. Technically after the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, so that's probably. What's that?
She takes everything till isn't it the end of March? It's when the books close.
Yeah, I think so. So so that's probably in plenty for the master plan. We got the summary of the citizen outreach, the timeline. Do we need to go into detail about the ROS and what their role is? No, unless they ask.
You might want to explain to them that we're, that, we put, the subcommittees on hold at this point. We
Okay.
have one core group that we want to continue with, that we will probably bring that back. in
Utilize in the
April.
future. Okay, subcommittees on
Just at
hold.
least it lets them knows that, hey, there's no more subcommittees at this point, but we do have a good core group that we want to move forward with in April.
When the need arises.
Okay. All right, now the Metropolitan Planning Organization. We had presentation and we didn't really discuss it as a group. I'm going to include those same documents that we had in that packet. Oh, did I have, that was in all those attachments, yeah.
How much?
Yeah, he,
It's like 36,000 left or something.
3,500 a year. or something.
3,600 or 3,500, yeah, something like
I
that.
could remember.
Right.
if they had
I think he provided a
2,700.
copy of resolution that the town board could pass that opted
Yeah,
us
he
in.
did.
Yeah, he provided all of the stuff, so I will include all of that, but I guess I don't know. Our role in that discussion is just to say, hey, we like it, or we don't, or we support it, or are we just giving them the information and letting them go with it? I personally like it. I'm just gonna put it out there. I think it's a no-brainer myself.
I don't think there's anything wrong with us just saying, hey, we've given this information. We like it, we would like to support you in this, if there's anything, here's the information.
We also, does everybody?
Yeah, that's
support
the one
that?
question I guess I'm asking. Does everybody support it though? Because
Support them.
Right.
you support them in reviewing it.
Yeah,
Potentially a positive thing.
a really good resource.
So what you're buying is a seat at the table that helps you get your priority projects moved up the list.
You're
Otherwise,
buying a seat.
I mean,
And everybody
Right.
else is at the table except for us.
Yeah, everybody's been there for years, but we just thought we'd join in.
So
want to be
we-
on the outside looking in, just, you know, that's
We
where
were
you're.
tired of looking inside, not hearing.
So if they have a quorum, they potentially could make that decision.
Yep, they
If,
could.
with our support. So maybe I'm not gonna put a sample motion in there, but maybe we kind of as a group suggest that that might be an idea if they have a quorum, if they're interested. They're probably not gonna want, they're probably gonna want to look at the information more and talk about it more, but
Would you
we
want to
could-
consider a recommendation tonight that the planning commission formally recommends that the,
That's what I'm thinking.
I think
So-
we should.
yeah, okay,
I
so
don't think you should give them a choice. I should tell.
well,
them.
I mean, they can decide not to, but at least,
Right.
but at least that way the planning commission is formally on record as recommending it.
Yeah.
so do we do that now or we do that night? Do we do that now and then say
If you
we've
do
already
that right
done that?
now, then they have it, then they can turn it down or accept it.
Okay,
If it's a
somebody
quorum.
write it out for Lois who will send it to me. I can't write that fast.
I'll make a motion that we support. The township reviewing.
I think it's participating in
Participating,
in the
yeah.
Metropolitan Planning Organization for the sample ordinance or sample resolution they gave us. They gave us some document for the town board to act on. It's not for the planning commission to act on, but
No.
that you would,
So the
this sample resolution.
It really wasn't that expensive, right? It was like $3,500.
Year.
That was for the year, yeah.
So it's a reoccurring cost. So you'd have to budget.
Board. Motion to support the board participating in the NPO, which I'll follow with the sample resolution that was provided.
Yeah, something not right there.
I don't have that
so
in
the
front of me.
PC makes the PCs,
PC recommends, yeah.
Yeah, recommend sounds better.
Mhm.
the township participates in.
The township has.
Yeah, the board approved.
The board, yeah.
Participation.
Use the word whole, because that means we all have to agree, because we all agree.
Township participate in the NPO.
You need me to look up the.
I think we can just supply that with them.
I'll put
Thank
it
you.
in there, but
What word you?
let me find it in the,
They,
it was the October meeting.
Planning organization.
Is it a contract that they gave us?
They gave us
There's
several.
terminology I can't remember that they,
And to back out, you just put hand. And so it's nice, it's easy, if you tried it a couple of years, you didn't like it, just stop paying and you're out. You're out, yep.
Not in the October thing. I know I haven't written it down.
Oh, it's in the October paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I have him here. Sorry if I was supposed to. So there's a Traverse Transportation Coordinating Initiative resolution. Called Traverse Transportation Coordinating Initiative Resolution. Resolution to establish an intermunicipality committee under Michigan Public Act 200 of 1957 for purposes of transportation planning in the Traverse study area. Is that the word? Is that all the words you need? Okay. Let me download this.
It's just that simple motion to recommend the township participate in the MPO.
Yeah.
I think that's.
That word.
Yeah,
Make it more difficult than we have to.
Right.
make it simple, simple, simple.
And yeah, and the
Okay,
Metropolitan Planning Organization, yeah, that makes sense to me. And then all the because there were several documents that had to be. Okay. Well, that'll be
Support
good.
that motion?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll second that.
I'll second.
Roll call and ready.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Rubble,
Yes.
Steelman,
Yes.
DeYoung,
Yes.
Keaton,
Yes.
Spokesman,
Yes.
Gomo.
Yes.
Oh, wait, should she? Oh,
I
she.
typed in vote.
No, I guess it doesn't matter because it's
You don't
not
need
a.
No, it's not.
You as a response.
There you go.
There
Just
you
to be
go.
safe.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters, but. Okay, so
Even
now
though you guys are nice, great.
on the budget, what I was imagining about a budget discussion with them was things like. What format, how much information do they want, such as the number of meetings we expect? When do they need it by? Who does it get submitted to? Like just the ins and outs, the rules, what do you want? What do you want from us so we can give it to you? And we could meet at our January meeting and get this to you right away.
And in our anticipation to finish the master plan and the zoning, you know, we can estimate what we're gonna need to finish that.
Yep, we'll definitely give them that.
Mhm.
Yep, so the number of meetings,
Yep.
zoning. Master plan's a tricky one though, because we've got them to the draft, but then you get into
Mhm.
the public hearings
Oh, you
and
got
the,
all kinds of stuff.
Well, I think if we just do the best we can,
okay,
just do the best we can, and if we're short, we're gonna need some more, but I think we can.
Okay.
We'll rely on Randy to help us figure how many meetings he thinks we'll need and public outreach. How many of those we'll need, and then we can just put a figure to those and.
okay. So we'll just kind of ask them more or less policies and procedures is what we're asking them for. So I'll just list some few bullet point questions so they know what's coming, but it's really just a discussion for them to inform us officially recorded. So we can't do it wrong. That was all I was thinking for the budget. But is there something I'm missing or more detail we need to go into with that?
I think that covers it.
Okay.
You know how the budget. You know how the budget looks and. When you look at all Cheryl's stuff and how the budget, how they have it each separate, like 703, 600. If you go to the planning commission, you just have to be able to fill in all those boxes at budget time.
I know, but I guess. So that's what I need to, that's what I need to hear. Do you want me to break it down and tell you why I'm picking this much money for this line? Do you want to know that it's this many meetings and that's why I've chosen this, or do you just want me to give you figures?
I would
That's the
think
kind of
this
details I
meeting-
don't know.
I think for this particular meeting, I think if they did, they're not voting on giving us that money now
No, they're
anyway.
just telling.
I think
us.
you just give them the best ballpark figure we have.
I'm not going to give them any numbers at this meeting. I'm going to ask them, how do they want me to
Okay.
give them
Oh,
numbers?
okay.
How
Okay.
detailed do they want
Yeah.
us to be?
Okay.
And then in January, once we know how detailed we're supposed to be, we as a group will figure
Okay.
out our numbers and get it to them. Like, when do they need it by? You know, the details, the policies and procedures that I haven't seen. Okay. I think that's it for the budget. So anything else on our joint meeting anybody can think of or wants to chat about? Okay,
Seems like plenty.
sounds like a lot. It's gonna be
Sounds like a lot.
it's gonna be a big meeting. Okay, we're gonna get into new business, which is the bylaws. So I included them and highlighted on the packet, the sections that I was referencing, we kind of need to discuss. First one is amendment. So in January, which is like the very last thing on the packet, it's packet page 60, section 13. It says that we can amend these bylaws in January. That's when we're supposed to. Now, I know last year it was pretty late by the time we did all of that, but I just wanted you to be prepared to know that we are going to talk about these in January, and if there's any changes that you feel should be done, or I'm gonna throw this out there, if you're not gonna be there in January and there are any changes to this that you feel should be done and you want to voice that now, that's okay. That's why I put it on the agenda early, because I know there are a few of you that are gonna be in warmer climates. But no, I'm not jealous.
I did have a couple things that I seen.
Okay,
Let me see if I.
are you gonna be here in January?
I plan on being
Okay,
here. in
good.
January. Getting where I saw it, I thought I marked it down here. Somewhere it says that all people in our vote on every issue, and just as what just happened, Heidi didn't vote because she needs to be able to vote in the board on that. So that needs to be changed in our bylaws. We can't say that she has to vote here every single time if sometimes she doesn't, so that she can vote at the board. And at the moment, I'm having trouble finding what
It's-
page that's at. Oh, right here.
G on page 55 of the public.
Yeah, 55G, yes. The bottom line from the comma to the end there. All PC members, including the chairperson and ex officio member, shall vote on all matters. I think that's wrong, because sometimes Heidi doesn't, not just Heidi, but the board representative doesn't vote. Because if they vote here, they can't vote at the board.
Well, they're voting on two different things. Why couldn't they?
If they're voting, if the board is voting on the same thing we're voting on.
Yeah, but all she's saying here is that we're saying it's okay, we're supporting it to go to the board for a vote. There's no reason she can't vote on that and then vote to say, yes, the township's gonna do
No, I
it.
think in the enabling act, it says she can't.
So that in this instance, it's okay, but it's
Oh,
probably,
there's
okay.
some other ones.
But other ones, like if it was,
be really careful.
if she
Okay.
was
Yeah.
gonna, if she was going to have to vote on the same exact thing there, she couldn't do both. So
Right,
we
she
would
can't
want
vote.
her vote there,
Not here.
Right.
not here.
Not
So I
here.
think that it does make sense, Mike, that then.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how to word that, but that stuck out to me.
difficult.
Well, we can hammer out the details of how to update that
Yeah.
in January, because that's our month.
You have to literally go, sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
No, I think it is clear. I think like, for example, when you're saying that you're approving a zoning amendment here, you're approving it and sending it to the board for final approval, that would be a case where you would not want to vote.
Yeah.
should never be voting twice on the same.
Correct.
What about where you have declared a conflict of interest? You're not supposed to be here during, even in the room during the discussion or voting. So you don't vote on any item with,
It
you have a
says,
conflict of interest.
so it says in our bylaws, except in the case of conflict of interest. So it's there, that's there. So anyway, review all of it for January and come to the table with changes that you feel need to be made. Because then, of course, it'll have to go to the attorney and then, back to us and all of
I
that.
had a question on that,
ahead.
Rachel, as far as Heidi, if she approved whatever the topic was here. It's unrealistic to think she would not approve it when she got to the board level. So isn't that the same thing? If you approved it here, you'd approve it there. Heidi would be approving
Yeah,
it.
but we don't need her vote here and we
Well,
probably
we don't
will
know.
need her vote
We
there.
don't know that. You might
Right.
get in a situation where the planning commission is split and you do need it.
So we need a
Well,
2/3
that's a
of the
decision
members.
that she makes.
She can make.
Yeah.
Heidi she has the
Yeah,
authority to make that
person
herself.
In that position makes.
Yeah.
Okay,
The-
okay.
but then she can't vote at the board level on the same thing. When you're voting on the same thing, she can't vote on the same exact thing here.
I think that it would be easy just to reference the rule that doesn't allow that.
Right,
In
that's
the-
exactly, that's.
The
how
end
we
of
should
G,
do it.
just
That's a
say
great
except in the
idea.
circumstances of, and then that law.
That's a great idea.
Okay, so, another thing that I, had been brought to my attention. Okay, so I'm just gonna back up. I should have started with this. We have a couple of you that are gonna be gone. We know January, February, and March. And I know Keith and Linda will be absent. Is there anybody else that's gonna be absent? Cause I'm trying to make sure we have a quorum. That's my first thing. Or,
I don't know yet because those walls in Florida, they're moving forward with them, but they're awful slow. They haven't
Okay.
even started yet. They're just, so I don't know.
okay,
Right now, I don't know.
okay.
So you need 4 people
Mm-hmm.
and it
So-
looks like 1, 2, 1, 2.
Before.
I think we'll.
But
We'll be
Heidi-
okay.
Heidi counts,
Yeah,
Yeah.
she
Oh,
does.
yeah.
So, but that's why I was just checking on that.
so not more than 1 person could be absent. During that
Right,
period,
exactly.
other than the people you.
During
already
January,
know.
February, and March. So that also brings me to, I'm tying all of this together is what I'm trying to do. So we're on new business bylaws 1 and 2, A1 and 2. My term is up next December, but as many of you already know, I'm leaving next August and I will be gone on a hiatus of a trip for a year with my family. So I will be done with the PC in August of next year, which means I really can't be chair. I won't be chair all year. I couldn't be chair all year. However, in January, we're supposed to kind of elect and talk about our new chairs and vice chair and secretary and all of these things. So since I know you guys are going to be absent, I'm going to ask right now is early, are anybody interested in relieving me before I depart? I don't know how else to put it. And being a chair, a vice chair, or a secretary or anything. Thank you.
And I would also be willing, probably more likely vice chair, just because I feel like I'm still getting my legs.
Mhm.
But I guess I'm thinking about that. and-
Okay.
And could send a letter of intent. I don't know if you're still gonna decide. in
Well,
January.
that's where I'm also going with this. So in January is when we're supposed to decide. And we could look at changing our bylaws to have them line up with, say, the fiscal year, which would put us at April was when the new things would begin. Or we can choose as a group to delay that until April, but keep it the same, and I still function as chair while the folks interested are absent.
I like the idea of lining it up with the fiscal year. To me, that makes sense. New budget.
Mike, what are you thinking?
I would like to see you in that chair seat, just for every minute we can keep you there.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Good job too.
Um,
Well, I'm not dissing anybody else. I'm just saying, I think you're doing a great job.
Thank
And,
Agree with you.
changing leadership, over and over and over isn't good. If the leadership's good, let's stick with it. That's my point.
so you still want to be secretary?
No.
So. Well, hard.
I can't be a secretary.
Yeah.
But another comment I would make though is it is a really good opportunity for us to make sure whoever, like, you could approach it the way Mike is suggesting to make sure that your vice chair is truly in training for the position, right?
Yeah.
Because
So-
this stuff says that person's supposed to succeed.
Yeah.
Now, I know you're gonna be busy packing, but
Well,
you
and
know,
that's what
I'm
I
just
am not
saying.
interested in just ditching. I want to be able to help the transition and see you guys be successful beyond my departure. Obviously, I've put in a lot, invested a lot into this and I care about our township and all of you. So that's why I'm this early and trying to explain and set us up for success. So I'm willing to help as long as I need to. Our bylaws say we need to do this in January. So as a group, we need to decide how do we want to do this based on, those that are interested in taking over and your availability and my availability and all of that. So I threw out some ideas. What are your thoughts?
Well,
back?
when could we vote on changing that and just make it April? Why don't we do that now?
Well, right now.
Well, do we have to do that with the bylaw change in January, Randy, and then the attorney
I think we
review?
could do that anytime. We can amend our bylaws. We don't have, whenever they need amending.
Yeah, we wrote in here that.
yeah, it said here you can amend them.
Yeah,
And bylaws are on our agenda tonight.
yeah.
That's true.
Yes, they are.
So we're talking about section. The other one I highlighted way up top here.
Officials, section 2A, is that right?
Say at the first
53.
regular meeting each April. That's what it would just change to. We just change January to April. That'd be the
Yeah.
only change.
Yeah.
Well, there's January in there a couple times.
And I don't think you need attorney review because this is not a material change. I mean, you're just changing a month.
Right.
Whoop-de-doo, you know?
That
We don't have to send it to the attorney for a month. Guys, we're just making it a lot, excuse me, we're
I
aligning
mean,
it.
or
with
are
the
we allowed to just
fiscal year.
say, we'll make that change in January, but right now when we make all of the changes, it'll just be one of the few changes we make. But we're in a consensus right now that that's what we're going to do in January.
I
Yeah.
like that.
I agree with that.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Instead of so we can make all the changes at one time instead of,
Sure.
We
And
can
just
have,
because you're traveling, you can always zoom in and you can get internet.
But on the other,
Facilitators got it up.
but on the other changes, does the attorney gonna have to review it?
yeah, probably.
All the
So we,
So I'm saying if we just go ahead and do this one now, then you're already set for until April. Where if you try to do this in January, you might be February before you
we
even.
might not have a quorum for some reason
Right.
if people get sick or something. Okay, is that okay? Do you think that because that's just
I
a
think
one
so.
word
Just-
change?
don't know.
I mean, because technically when we make a change to our bylaws, we have to give it to the board. I mean, there's like steps. So that's why I was
Well-
thinking we do it once.
We give it to the board after it's been done. We're just informing them, the planning commission
They're not
approved its own
okay.
bylaws.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
we're in
right.
charge of our own bylaws.
Yeah, yes, you're right.
So we give them an updated
Yeah.
copy.
I think that
Working.
just alleviates some problems that you might occur after, all of a sudden you're in February and.
So we just make a motion. I'm gonna make a motion that we update the bylaws. Section 2 officers, A, selection and tenure. To read to be done in April each year.
I'd second it.
Okay.
I'll third it.
You get all that, Garble? I'm gonna do what? Who's the boss, Lois? I'm just kidding.
Ooh, snap.
Change section 2.
Which is officers here.
Yeah, 2A.
Yeah, 2A, officer selection and tenure.
April.
First regular meeting of each April, I guess. There's 2 places in it where it says January that will just be changed to April. Well, that was simple. Yes, roll call, please.
Rubble.
No.
Steelman.
Yes.
DeYoung.
Yes.
Folksama. Yes. Keaton.
Yes.
Valmont.
Yes.
Jacobson.
Yes.
You're thinking, Randy, what?
I am, well, I was looking through the Michigan Planning Enabling Act like a good planner always does, and I remembered that we have an annual report that needs to be done for that. Sorry, I just it's
No,
off topic, but we gotta remember to.
Yeah, we
Be
can't
ready for
forget to
that.
do that.
Yeah,
January.
that,
That calendar year.
no, it's fiscal year, isn't it?
Yes.
I had to do it last year at the fiscal year.
It's fiscal.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because because I took it over and it was like, I don't know what to do, and that was due.
Right.
I mean,
Okay, well,
Wrong
it
but
just says annual written report.
I think it's always lines with last year it aligned with their fiscal year is when I had to have it by. Cause I had Bob help me with some statistics and stuff like that. I remember.
And that was just a synopsis of the meetings, right?
It's it was a chart, like Bob did some stuff for it.
Okay.
He did a pie chart of like how many, different things were there. Ours piece of it was pretty minimal because I didn't know what I was doing or have the data available to put in it. It should be we should be able to get a better one put together this year, but I'll definitely put that on like the February agenda for us to, as a group, work on. Instead of it all on me.
So the one that should be done in January, just so I can get in the calendar for the clerk, will be the meeting.
Okay, and last year you gave that to me. You want to give it to me again?
That'll be for the January.
Go in the January packet. Okay, wait, let me add that. Meeting resolution. Yeah, all that stuff, that makes sense. Cause I forget, cause by the time it gets to them, it's so delayed and everything, we have to do stuff really early. Okay. I think we're good there for now. Next meetings, of course, next Wednesday, the 13th at 7, be a good time. And then on January 3rd at 7 is our next meeting, and I'm gonna open it up for public comment. Town hall first, go ahead.
Gary Buskowski. I'm gonna challenge you all on this definition of rural character. How many people are familiar with the Weber Ellis Farm on 31 between Lock and Heath and 31? It's a farm of about 65 acres or so. This time last year, it was pretty rural in the definition of rural character, if you include farming and agriculture. That was the farm there, all the trees are gone.
Wait a minute. That's the pulse.
That's Pulsifer.
That's the pulse.
Okay, I stand corrected. I always thought it was Weber Ellis, but we know that it's the same 63 acres.
All right.
Sure, okay, I
Sorry,
apologize.
Carl,
I
we
got the
can't
wrong
have-
thing. But what I wanted to say was this. I heard a lot tonight about saying, keep the parcels small so people can buy it. I heard also the public saying, keep the parcels big. Carl, you said, let's go a happy medium between the two. If that farm is 62.3 acres and assume 5% is going to end up being roads and infrastructure. That's going to leave 60 acres. At Carl's 2.5 acres, that's going to be 24 units. Those 24 units, there is no guarantee that those 24 units surrounding them is going to be 30 acres of bluegrass. Oh yeah, maybe they're going to throw in a couple deciduous trees and here and there. Is that your idea of rural character? And did your size preserve rural character? And what I'm asking you is, Al, you said, and Randy, you don't have the picture, but when you looked at that duplex unit, I heard the word say, that's the rural character we want to preserve.
Was that a question to me?
You
Yes.
can't answer it,
I
sorry, Al.
can't answer.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that's what I heard from you is that you sort of thought that that could be rural character. Okay, the way that was developed, that the way it is being, maintained today. So I'm saying to you is one is to come up with a definition that is somewhat quantifiable. Obviously, size is going to be important, Carl. But I think the other element that, at least in my mind, is how it's developed, and Randy's began to allude to it. It's rural character because if I looked at that picture and analyzed it, 30 to 40% was wooded. Whatever that number is. So in my mind, if I was saying rural character and it meets the objective, is that a criteria that you can place in the zoning to say to preserve rural character, you've got to have these elements, okay? And you somehow, which is probably the biggest difficult thing to do, is how do you maintain that over a long period of time? You can force a developer, but the landowner, obviously, if he's not maintaining the woods and he wants to cut them all down, well, you lose that character. But I would say that farm that 62 acres, no matter what they do, the rural character is gone. But if they planted that, as I drive down 31 along the golf course in the resort, 25 years ago or 30 years ago, that was nothing but golf course. Today, it's all blue spruce evergreens. So you don't see the golf course. Good for the golfers, but it's also good for me as the person that's driving down that I don't see what's happening there. So I'm challenging you to define in more specific terms what rural character means to this community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have one on Zoom, so Connie. Good evening.
Good evening. I'd just like to congratulate the entire PC along with Randy and the ROS committee. The exceptional work that's being done on the master plan is just, it's profound, just to look at it in your packet. So such good work. I heard the voices of every single PC member tonight. It's wonderful to hear all your opinions and questions about the master plan, because that's eventually going to affect all the residents of Whitewater Township. So thanks for your hard work, for the hours that you're investing in this project. The future of Whitewater Township is in your capable hands. This meeting was a pleasure to attend. I hope to be at your joint meeting next week. I wish all of you a blessed Christmas season, and thanks for your service to our community.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. Okay, now we go into discussion and comments. Any discussion and comments, Carl?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason that vote no on that resolution is, Rachel, I think you've done a wonderful job. And I want you to be the chairman as long as you can. I just don't think there's any reason to change anything. And then next year, we vote in January. If you have to leave part of the year, anybody in here could leave. And we have ways of taking care of that. I just didn't see that was at all necessary. But I think everybody here is doing one heck of a job. I don't always agree, but that's why I'm here. And you guys don't agree with me, and I'm usually outvoted, but not always.
Well,
That's-
thank you for your explanation. Al?
No.
Keith?
Just want to say, I will not be here for January, February, and Marches. I'll be here back in April, but I will attend during, for the Zoom meetings. The train, lovely assistant over here.
Are you doing it next Wednesday then?
Are you not gonna be here next Wednesday?
No, but you can train her, you can do it, and he can.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so she'll be doing a Zoom.
Mhm.
And I will attend Zoom meetings, and if you guys need anybody doing anything work or anything, I'll be glad to do it, and I can just
Mhm.
email it to you.
Sure. No, I'm just teasing.
I'm sitting by the pool.
Right,
I'm
exactly.
glad that, you know, my fingers are fast and.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it.
Heidi?
I got nothing. I just hope Wednesday goes good.
Well, Linda?
I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Mike?
I think it was a great meeting.
Thank you. Randy? Okay. So the keynotes to share at the next township board meeting, we went over that because that's what we're doing next week. So I feel like I can't think of anything new that there would be between then and the January board meeting. So, and then action items for tonight. I didn't really jot much down. Most of it's for me to make that packet. For you guys, I guess it would be to review that packet and be ready for our meeting next Wednesday and attend it. Did I miss anything that's on?
Do we need a Zoom meeting for that?
Yes.
We'll add that on there and give you the link.
Thank you.
Do
Yes,
that.
I guess I assumed they
I'll
had
actually
it.
do that now.
Think about it.
I can look to see if they. put it
Oh.
on there. Maybe they did.
One more thing I do have, continuing education. I did forward an email January 9th from 10 to 12. There's a collaborative discussion on economic development. I can give you the printed copy, so you have it. If anybody's free to attend, I'm not. Of course, we know these snowbirds aren't. But if anybody else is free to attend it, I think it would be really good for one of us to go. Just in the email I sent you, there's an RSVP by the 22nd you'd need to do.
This one you sent us. about-
Yeah, just a few days ago.
I'm available.
Okay, it would be great if you could go.
I can go. I mean.
There is
I
an
don't know that-
RS,
I don't know that I'm the best person to go, but I'm certainly available and something to do.
okay, well, please go for us and let us know what you
I'll-
learn.
I'll send in my,
Your RSVP,
yeah.
thanks.
So they're having, sorry,
Go ahead.
so they're having a township board meeting the 12th,
Yes,
and then we're having the special one on the 13th.
yes,
Okay, that's 13th's not in here. You want me to put it in?
yes, please, that would be great. And then send it to me because I would have gotten ready to do the packet and then I'd have been texting you like,
Uh-huh.
help.
You know what? It's
What? Oh, on the 9th. Oh, that's probably why Ron couldn't go either, because he sent it to me. You want to give that printed one to Mike? Okay, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting at 9:53. Thank you guys very much. I'll see you next week.
Well, you.